All right, good afternoon. Happy Wednesday. Can everybody hear me okay? We're good?
Yes.
Welcome to today's Interagency Equity Advisory Committee meeting here in the city of San Diego, California. Thank you all for being with us, both those joining us in person and those participating virtually. Thank you also to Caltrans District 11 staff who coordinated our transit complex tour this morning. It was amazing. We learned so much. Thank you for that. We will begin with roll call and meeting logistics. Justin, take it away.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. I'll start with roll call. Carrie Akemi Hernandez. Lisa Marie Alvarado.
Good morning, Justin. Present.
Thank you. Martha Armas Kelly. Martha Armas Kelly.
Yeah, present.
Great, thank you. Anthony Giddens.
Present.
Gloria Huerta.
Gloria asked to be promoted to panelist in the chat.
Oh, great, thank you so much. Give Gloria 1 second.
Present. Thank
All right,
you.
Thank you, Gloria. Naomi Iwasaki.
Present.
Peggy Martinez.
Present.
Vice Chair Andres Ramirez. Present. Michelle Rousey.
Present.
Lauren Simon. Randy Torres Van Vleck.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm present.
Pualani Vasquez. Howard Wong.
Present.
Chair Ana Gonzalez.
Present.
Chair, we have quorum.
Awesome. Thank you, Justin. Could you please provide the meeting logistics for those here in person and those joining online?
All right, will do. Good morning, everyone. My name is Justin Hall, and welcome to the August 19th, 2026 Interagency Transportation Equity Advisory Committee business meeting. This committee's focus will be on elevating diverse and historically marginalized voices and will advise the California Transportation Commission, California State Transportation Agency, and California Department of Transportation on how to achieve meaningful outcomes in transportation equity, environmental justice, and equitable economic opportunities, especially as related to transportation planning and programming. The meeting agenda is located on the Commission's website at www.catc.ca.gov. Any document created for this committee can be translated into any language you need. Simply email us at transportationeac@dot.ca.gov, and we'll have them returned to you as quickly as possible. American Sign Language interpretation is also being provided for this meeting. You should see them on your screen. We also have Spanish interpretation being provided. Headsets are available here in the room. So if you're looking for a headset, you can find Andrew here in the back of the room. For those using interpretation remotely, you can access this service through the interpretation tab at the bottom of the screen. Please use the Q&A tab if you have questions about this. Live closed captioning is available. Select the Show Captions tab at the bottom of your screen. There are a number of language options available there to choose from. And speakers, for accessibility purpose, we ask that you please state your name prior to speaking. Committee members, all members attending remotely must visibly appear on camera unless you are unable to do so due to connectivity issues. And if that's the case, just announce the technical reason for not appearing on camera. Presenters, if you're on the agenda to make a presentation, please do your best to be succinct. Remember to speak at a steady pace to allow our interpreting service adequate time for accurate interpretation. Members of the public, we welcome comments from the public as a part of each item at this meeting. For those attending in person, please submit a speaker slip to the clerk at the front of the room, that's me right here, to let us know you want to comment on an item. And for those attending via Zoom, you should see the webinar control panel likely located on the bottom of your screen. And there you'll find the raise hand and Q&A tabs. Please use the raise hand feature as soon as we reach the item to give the system time to acknowledge you, and committee staff will let you know when it's your turn to make comment. And alternately, you may use the Q&A tab to submit a written comment. Committee staff will read that comment on your behalf. As a reminder, each registered attendee is provided a unique link and number to access the webinar and should not be shared with other participants. Again, do your best to be concise and speak at a steady pace to allow our interpretation service adequate time. And be sure that your comments add new information. If you agree with the comments of a previous speaker, simply make that statement. We ask you to make your point in 3 minutes or less. If for some reason we have many speakers on a single topic, we reserve the right to limit comments to 1 minute if needed. Thank you all for joining us today.
All right, thank you so much, Justin. We're going to move on to tab 2, land acknowledgement. This next item is our land acknowledgement, which I will pass over to our Vice Chair Ramirez to read.
Thank you, Chair. We acknowledge that the land we now call California is the ancestral lands of over 109 nations, tribes, and peoples. The indigenous peoples of this area have a deep reciprocal relationship with the land as its original stewards. Their ways, methods, and traditions have contributed to California's rich biodiversity and have impacted the transportation network for the state. We stand with indigenous communities and are committed to partnering and advocating for a more equitable and sustainable future. Our transportation network not only connects us to family, friends, work, and leisure, it connects us to our past and future. We embrace our past with a future commitment to inclusiveness and equity for everyone who calls this state home. Today, we're meeting in the lands of the Kumeyaay, the Luiseño, the Cupeño, and the Cahuilla peoples. I'd like to invite any virtual committee members who wish to acknowledge the lands they are joining from. Member Wong.
The City and County of San Francisco recognizes the land as the unceded ancestral homeland of the Ramaytush Ohlone peoples.
Member Almas Kelly.
Greetings from Modesto, California. I am in the Miwok and Yokuts territory. I just wanted to say I am attending the EAC meeting for the city of Modesto. And if that doesn't speak loud and clear that what we're doing at the state has trickled down to our local jurisdictions, I don't know what to say. So I'm very proud to honor the staff and the Transportation Commission for the work that they've done through the EAC. Because as you can see, I'm attending 2 meetings today. At 1:30, I'll be also simultaneously listening onto our EAC in Modesto, California. So thank you.
Thank you. Chair.
See no one else. We are going to go on something new. We've gotten some feedback from some members about how to run our meetings. So starting at this meeting, we'll also share a list of community agreements that I would like for us to follow to help ensure that our meetings continue to operate in a timely and effective manner. Here is a list that we put together with our amazing vice chair. And we'll have an opportunity for other members to add on if they want. But first, we're going to go through the list one by one, and then we'll give other colleagues a chance to respond or comment or provide new agreements. So our first one is a way to be recognized by the chair. To maintain an orderly and productive discussion, please wait for the chair to acknowledge you before speaking. And I know sometimes when we're sitting up here, it gets a little hard. So please, staff, if you can help me if people are raising their hands online. That way we can recognize folks. 1 mic, 1 person should speak at a time. Do not interrupt presenters. So when staff or other visitors are presenting, please wait till they finish their presentation, and we will allow some time for members to make comments or questions. Hold questions to the end of the presentations. Please save your questions and comments until the presenter has finished. One of the things that I've observed is that Sometimes we pop up with some questions in the middle of presentations, but in the future slides, we find out that there was our answer to our question. So we would like to wait to the end. Be open-minded and open-hearted. I know I forgot to put the open heart. Approach all discussions with curiosity and willingness to listen to and learn from different perspectives and experiences, and give colleagues the opportunity to speak. I know some of our colleagues are quieter than others, but we would love to hear and make it a practice to hear from each and every one of our members during these meetings. So that's kind of it. Would anyone else like to offer any additional community meetings to this list at this time? Oh, Miss Peggy, go for it.
Hi. Well, I do have a question. It's not really adding to the list, but oh, sorry. It's more of a question, because I think everything on the list is great and meaningful and important. As a person who can't see, sometimes, well, you guys have been on this committee with me for a couple of years, and you know that I, for one, almost always have a question or something to say. But that doesn't mean that, I mean, that's almost a given. And I want to make sure that I'm not superseding or getting in front of another person. I guess my point is that because I can't see, I don't know if I'm being seen. So if I'm raising my hand, I don't know if somebody is seeing it. So I guess that's really all. You know, it's hard to know. And so I just wanted to make that point that I'm not always sure of what's happening around me because I can't see. And that's just a thing. So I wanted to, that's it. That's all.
No, I appreciate that point. Member Martinez, I think what we can do is we'll make a point of listing, kind of voicing out the list of speakers that are acknowledged for the topic. So that way we have order when we're doing the order of speakers or whatnot. I mean, I think the intention for the agreements is just to make sure that we're running through these meetings as efficiently as possible. You know, all of us acknowledge sometimes our meetings run a little long, right? The discussions can run a little long, and so we're trying to find a way that communally we could make these meetings run smoother, and then making sure that everybody's voice can be heard and acknowledged.
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair. Did that help, Peggy? Would that be helpful? Okay, perfect. So we'll make a list. Kind of what we do with public comment, we'll call out like the next 3 speakers or something so we know. All right, any other questions or comments from the dais?
Member Armis Kelly has their hand raised.
All right, Member Armis Kelly.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to also say that if we're talking about house rules, it's really important that we recognize that we have an interpreter. And I know that at times it seems like there's not someone there that is interpreting, but we do tend to have either it's ourselves or speakers, we kind of speak a little too fast. And when someone is interpreting, in order for someone to have the access, let's say if they're language impaired or even limited English proficient, it makes a difference for the interpreter to be able to interpret effectively, to be able to hear everything and have a amount of time to be able to relay that information. Otherwise, they're left to shorten or kind of adjust the narrative, and you don't quite get the same verbiage that you should. So I think it's important to really acknowledge that. And just in keeping in mind that there are folks out there that would like to engage, and when they don't, sometimes it's because they don't get to have the information given to them in a manner that is as robust as it would be in their native tongue or in the full capacity of the language itself.
All right. Thank you, Member Armas Kelly. So are we suggesting that we add an item that says something along the lines of speak clearly for interpreters, slowly, for folks to capture everything that's being said?
Yes, I would have to say that, and I believe that Michelle's also agreeing with me. So I just think it's important because
Yes, absolutely.
in a larger arena, and especially like you said, when everyone's speaking at the same time and we're all trying to convey our opinions and like we don't follow protocol as we should, myself included, it makes it harder for the interpreter to be able to relay all the information because there are like several speakers. So that would help to note that we acknowledge that we should have that consideration for those folks.
Yes. Thank you so much. We'll add that and we'll include it in our minutes for next time and in our future presentations. Anyone else? All right. Seeing none, is there any public comment on this item?
Thank you, Chair. Not seeing any requests at this time for public comment.
All right. So no public comment. We'll move on to tab 3. Welcome to the region. Tab 3 is the Welcome to the Region. Today's presentation will be from Caltrans staff supporting the local community advisory board. Please welcome Brenny Aceituno, the community liaison and equity analyst with Caltrans District 11 External Affairs. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. Yes, my name is Brenny Aceituno. Thank you so much for having us here today. And thank you so much for coming to our region and to our district. We're really excited to have you guys here. And we're happy to show you guys some of the assets that we have on our state right of way that connect with our local transit. Which is a great way to see what you guys are going to hear more about later on today. I'm here mostly to tell you that we're really excited to have the EAC here and to really commemorate that you guys really inspired our district to build our own community advisory board, which has launched earlier this year, and we just had our third meeting last night. Some of the members were able to join, and so thank you guys for coming out and having that great discussion with our board members. We can go to the next slide. A little bit about San Diego and Imperial counties, or about District 11. We serve two counties, San Diego County and Imperial County. We are approximately 1,300 employees, have about 4,400 lane miles. We have 3,000 acres of roadside, 26 maintenance stations throughout both counties, serving 25 cities, and we have 20 tribal nations as well as 7 border crossings. We're the only district that has an international border, makes our district a little bit more unique and, I guess versatile in the way that we have to engage with our local communities, but also take into account, obviously, that we have many Mexican nationals crossing into San Diego for work and for school as well. Next slide, please. So really, we just wanted to talk to you guys just a few minutes about the inspiration that we took from you all, and that was led to the creation of our own community advisory board. We call it the CAB for short. And on the screen, you'll see 2 images. Both images are of our CAB members during their meeting in June, going through a activity that really allowed them to understand our shop process and how we select those kinds of the projects here in District 11 while dealing with the sort of local needs, the state constraints, any legal measures, and of course, any emergency or curveballs that might come up. So it was a really fun activity, and that's just the images that you're seeing there. As far as the CAB itself, we intentionally designed this so that we can really embed community voices and tribal voices into the district-wide decision-making. And so we decided to structure our recruitment approach to really aim to build a board that aims that really reflects the diverse sectors in San Diego and Imperial counties. While we're serving 2 counties, we understand that they're very different, right? One of our counties is population-wise much larger. It's also more urban, and the other one is more rural and just has completely different needs. And so we're really trying to build a board that serves both counties in an equitable way, and that brings in different voices from various sectors that we know intersect with transportation decisions. So that's professionals from education, from health, from government, business, disability access, and tribal partners. We developed this really so that we can get a two-way dialogue with our local communities, where Caltrans is able to share the mandates that we have and really surface through the conversation a lot of the local priorities and insights that we want to make sure are included when we're making those transportation infrastructure decisions across the region. And as our pilot grows, we aim to support the early problem solving that we know comes along when we bring in community voice right at the beginning of every process, making sure that our equity measures really are aligned with the community that we're serving here in San Diego, which is, might look really different from some of the other districts up in Arcata, up in San Francisco, or even closer to us, which is Orange County or San Diego. And so really building that greater transparency that strengthens trust with the communities that we serve. Next slide, please. All right, so the way that we're able to start building this iteration of a community advisory board is that we know the state is developing what we call a People and Communities First Action Plan. Its short acronym is PC1AP. And so the state really wants every district to start considering different measures, different actions that they can take, they can commit to really start bringing in more of that community voice and really centering the community and the people that we're serving when it comes to transportation decisions. And so District 11, our district, we decided to take that on and commit one of our actions. We have actually 10 actions that we committed to, but one of them is our community advisory board. And so we added that to our action plan. And it's really meant to start building a guidebook for the rest of the state in case any other districts wants to take this on. We kind of decided to be the first one to bite and to see how we can try this out here in District 11. And of course, we're already learning some great ways to engage and also obviously things that we need to improve on. And that's a really great way that I think it's really good that our district is taking that on to really be able to test what we can do and how we can navigate conversations with the community. This is really meant to strengthen the internal alignment across our divisions as well. So we have many divisions at District 11, as many of the other districts do, and Caltrans in general, right? From planning, design, construction, to our administration, external affairs, environmental, all of them have their own processes and their own way of navigating communities when they're assessing for projects. At whatever phase the project is at. And so this is really meant to be a collaborative space where we can take that to the communities, be transparent of where our projects land and which phase of the process and which divisions get engaged at that process and how we can work better at any stage of the process, but also work better with communities so that they are hopefully invited at the very beginning. But even if we started a project after the fact, they can still be involved. We're also hoping that this is going to support our ongoing, like our district's ongoing learning and improvement, right? We're constantly learning from our community members and trying to build a space that really gathers insight and refines the processes of the CAB so that we can really develop a guidebook that is straightforward, that can be tailored for districts, because what works in District 11 might not work in District 3 or District 8, but that can be tailored for the communities that they're serving and still operate within our statewide systems. And lastly, we're really trying to create a pathway for statewide equity leadership. I mentioned earlier on that the EAC was actually one of our inspirations in trying to really look at what you guys have done at the state level and see how we can bring it down to the regional level. And so we'd love to build our CAB and then give them the opportunity to join you guys in the EAC should they want to go ahead and reach for the state level sort of policy influence and advocacy there. And I think that's everything for me. On the slide, there are 4 pictures. The first one is a cover of the progress report for our People and Communities Action Plan, which it was formerly known as our Race and Equity Action Plan. And so we've changed the name to PC1AP. So on the title, you'll see Race and Equity Action Plan. Below that image is an image of our Caltrans engineering and construction team standing over our 30th pedestrian bridge here in Barrio Logan. We were able to include that bridge into a shop project that allowed us to do some pavement preservation and include an artistic concept on that bridge, which is now called the Quetzalcoatl Bridge. It's a serpent, a feathered serpent. It's really close, an image closely tied to the cultural identity of the Barrio Logan community. On the left-hand corner is another bridge, our Willow pedestrian bridge. For the for the EAC members who were here last year for our tour, you guys actually were able to visit both those bridges, and you saw at the state that they were at last year. And so we're happy to say that this year the bridges look completely different. We're able to improve both of them, adding pavement preservation to both, as well as artistic concept. And so the one with all the beautiful geometric shapes and colors, as well as silhouettes of families on the bridge, that is in our San Isidro community. And it's called our Willow Road pedestrian bridge, now also known as the Willow Road Alebrije Glow Bridge. And then the last picture on the left lower corner is an image of our Caltrans maintenance workers installing an air monitor, also in San Isidro, so we can start measuring the particles in the air along our freeway and see how we can better identify some mitigation strategies that can support better health outcomes for our communities who are living close to the freeway. With that, I'm going to pass it to my colleague and a member of the CAB support team, Keela Johnson, with the Administration Division.
Thank you, Brandy. I think we should have another slide. Next slide. So yes, I'm Keela Johnson, and I am the Health and Safety Coordinator from the Administration Division. And I just wanted to share with you that D11 coordinates across 3 divisions to run the Community Advisory Board. And this is how we keep CAB aligned with district priorities. Administration, External Affairs, along with planning and local assistance. We handle the day-to-day operations with guidance from our Executive Steering Committee. I'm the Health and Safety Coordinator. I handle the logistics that make the CAB meeting safe, accessible, and seamless. This includes room reservations, safety requirements, and on-site support that keeps our meetings running smoothly. Brenny, who you just met, she's our equity analyst with External Affairs, and she's the one who leads with equity, ensuring our CAB processes align with the people and communities first approach and our statewide goals. Planning, Anna, who's sorry she couldn't be here, she is our community engagement coordinator, and she sustains engagement through the CAB hub and pulls CAB input into planning early for our project development. All of this is guided by our Executive Steering Committee. Their work helps keep us in step with district priorities and our overall strategy. Our Executive Steering Committee includes our District Director, Ann Fox, Chief Deputy Capital Program, Alan Kossop, and Chief Deputy Maintenance and Operations, Gerard Chiderigan. They provide our overall direction, ensure CAB's work stays aligned with district priorities, and supports consistent strategic decision-making. This design is intentional. It creates a two-way channel between the district and the communities that we support. We provide transparency and help to solve issues early in the process. This structure also gives us accountability and a consistent way to show progress. Together, these 3 divisions and the Executive Steering Committee allow the CAB to function effectively and stay connected to the district's broader priorities. It's been great to share the day with you and have you with our Community Advisory Board meeting last night, and I thank you very much for this opportunity today. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. I'm gonna leave my comments to the end. I want to see if any of my colleagues have any comments or questions for or welcome to the region folks online. Member Wong.
Yes, thank you for the presentation. And I attended yesterday's CAB meeting. Found it very, inspiring. So keep up the good work and pioneering the effort for the rest of the state. I think one of the things the EAC is able to do, because we're looking at the whole state and all its districts, we probably are looking more for the common goals that, and things that how we can spend money and yet achieve results for everyone in an equitable way. So I think District 11 is the first pioneering district um, entity may want to start by looking for common goals that are applicable to all districts. So one might just start thinking about increasing choices and the increasing the ease of mobility, transit, and transportation, or lowering the cost of transportation for everyone, especially underserved areas, and increasing transit modal share at lower costs to everyone, especially underserved areas. So one might kind of brainstorm and look for those things that are needed in your district, but also other districts could adopt. So there's a common framework that stretches across the state. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Wong. Anyone else? Member Randy.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to the Caltrans team, Brenny, and Nick, and appreciate you for being available on today's tour. And yeah, congrats on the launch of the Community Advisory Board. That's a big development. My understanding is that's one of the few districts in the state that launched their own CAB. Is that correct?
The only
The
one.
only one. Okay, excellent. Well, appreciate you leading the way. I hope the other districts will continue to be inspired and can reach out to you for lessons learned, I'm sure. But I just want to shout out the District 11 team. Have been amazing to work with here, and welcome. On the note of welcome to the region, I want to welcome all my fellow colleagues to San Diego. I'm the resident San Diego representative, and pleasure to have you all here. Looking forward to today's meeting, and thank you again for the tour today. It was great to see the Centerline stations and how those are being operated in the partnership with community-based organizations like City Heights CDC. And I'm looking forward to the 2 p.m. discussion where we get to talk about the district transit plan. So that was great framing and like a launch pad for today's discussion. So it'd be great to have you join us for that if you're available. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thanks, Randy. Yeah, I will say that the People and Communities First Action Plan will have its first report. I should have mentioned this. Our first cycle is from 2025 to 2028. And so basically that means that we have 3 years to set up our CAB and build out that guide, that more or less a how-to guide, and then present it hopefully maybe to you guys, but definitely to our colleagues up in HQ for them to see how they would want to take that on for the rest of the state.
One more shout out if I could share.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. I want to also highlight that in the last 4 years, the Caltrans District 11 team has organized 2 open freeway events where they let people walk, bike, skate, hang out on the freeway that's temporarily closed for maintenance. And we've organized some incredible events in partnership with District 11. I believe we showed a video last year I think it was maybe at the Stockton meeting where we showed that video, but happy to send that around. But great way to repurpose the public space that we have. And I encourage all the other districts to also be inspired by that. So I want to continue to push the other districts to take advantage of that and temporarily repurpose our public right away for public benefit and rethinking that space. So shout out to the District 11 team for your leadership and the courage to move forward with an event like that. Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. Anyone else on the online? Do we have anybody? All right, so seeing none, with that, I also want to congratulate you all and give you a huge shout out. I know it takes a lot of work and effort and, trying to gather everyone in the same room. But I love the community center planning approach that you guys are leaning yourselves with and just very inspired. I know we were asked last night if we would be available to, either coach or share some of our knowledge and resources. And yes, the answer was absolutely yes. So yes, please look at us as a resource and a wealth of knowledge to share, because I know it hasn't been easy for us and it's taken a long time, but I think we're in a good place where things are running smoothly, and I can see you guys there already. So thank you all for your hard work and to everybody that put this together. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, guys. We will be reaching out.
Yes. All right. So now moving to tab 4. Tab 4 is the approval of our May 2026 committee business and executive meeting minutes, which have been provided for you all for review. Do we have any public comment on this item?
No, I'm not seeing any requests at this time to comment on the item.
All right. Are there any committee member comments? No? Okay, we'll take a second if folks need it, but at this time we'll take a motion in a second. Oh, Michelle.
Yeah, make a motion to approve.
All right. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right. Member Gloria Huerta seconded. With that, Justin, please call the roll.
Gary Akemi Hernandez. Lisa Marie Alvarado.
Aye.
Martha Armas Kelly. Martha Armas Kelly. Anthony Giddens.
Aye.
Gloria Huerta.
Aye.
Naomi Iwasaki.
Aye.
Peggy Martinez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Andres Ramirez.
Aye.
Michelle Rousey.
Aye.
Florence Simon. Randy Torres Van Vleck.
Aye.
Pualani Vasquez. Howard Wong.
Aye.
Chair Ana Gonzalez.
Aye.
Chair, the motion passes.
All right. Thank you so much, Justin. So moving on to tab 5. This is our public comment for items not on the agenda. As a reminder, the committee may hear public comment on items not listed today, but the committee cannot discuss or take action on these items at this meeting. Are there any public comments not on the agenda?
Thank you, Chair. Not seeing anyone from the public at this time indicating they wish to comment.
Okay, we don't have anyone in person either, no? All right. Any of our colleagues, members want to make public comments? Okay. Seeing none, thank you. We'll move on to tab 6, District Transit Plan Presentation and Discussion. Tab 6 features the Caltrans District Transit Plan. Whoa, let me slow down. District Transit Plan Presentation and Discussion. I will pass it to Tatsuko to introduce this item. Please take it away.
Great. Thank you, Chair. Before we welcome our district transit plan presenters, we'd like to provide some background on the committee's previous engagement with Complete Streets as an advisory opportunity. In October of last year, Caltrans staff presented an overview of Complete Streets efforts, including policies, technical guidance, and project delivery. Presenters also discussed future opportunities for committee input on engagement and equitable funding for Complete Streets implementation, as well as ways to inform the state bicycle and pedestrian plan and district and statewide transit plans. Following that presentation, staff led a Complete Streets tour and transit stop tour at the May 2026 business meeting in San Jose. There was a presentation that provided an overview of Complete Streets efforts at Caltrans related to transit, including the need to develop transit stop design guidance. Observations from the transit stop tour will inform decisions made by designers and planners of future transit facilities within our state right-of-way. Today, Caltrans will provide an update on ongoing Complete Streets and other transit efforts. Staff will introduce the district transit plans and share an overview of the public engagement that took place during this summer. Staff will then provide a deeper look into the development of the District 11 Transit Plan, including lessons learned through community engagement, unique regional considerations, and opportunities to support local implementation. Finally, staff will share upcoming milestones for implementation of the Caltrans transit policy and identify future opportunities for committee members to continue providing input. Our presenters today will be Audrey Ogden, Active Transportation Performance Measure Manager from Caltrans Headquarters, Division of Transportation Planning, Alyssa Fee, Caltrans District 11 Transit Planning Staff, and Joshua Pulverman, Chief of the Office of Transit Planning from Caltrans Headquarters, Division of Mass Transportation. We ask that you please hold your questions and comments until all three presenters have completed their presentations. And I will now turn it over to Audrey Ogden to share her presentation.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sweet. All right. So hi, everybody. My name is Audrey Ogden. I am from the Office of Complete Streets Planning at Caltrans Headquarters. I'm going to talk a little bit about our Caltrans district transit plans, and I'll pass it over to Alyssa to talk a little bit more in depth about the District 11 transit plan. But I just want to give you guys a quick overview of what we've been doing and talk a bit about our engagement efforts as well. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the district transit plans is to identify and prioritize transit infrastructure needs on our state transportation network, and then position those district-specific needs for funding and implementation purposes. So this is something that we've been working on for the last year and a half. It's scheduled to wrap up in February of 2027. We will soon be having our draft plans available for each district around the November-December timeframe. Next slide. As far as the timeline goes, I mentioned that we've been working on this for about a year and a half, but I want to explain what we've been doing over this last year, since January of 2026, essentially. Around this timeframe this year, we've been working on our strategy development and coordination efforts regarding the district transit plans. We went into our second round of transit partner engagement back in the springtime. And then May and June, we did further outreach to some of our transit adjacent groups, which is continuing to happen this past month as well. And then we are wrapping up what we found in these engagement sessions in a summarized findings report that will be included in our district transit plan as well. And then in October, that's when we're kind of wrapping up the entire plans, getting them reviewed internally, and then getting ready for that public engagement, or not public engagement, but the public review period of the district transit plans for each district coming in November and December. Next slide. As far as our engagement approach goes, we had essentially a three-prong approach. So what we wanted to do is engage with people who have a strong understanding of transit. So generally speaking, Caltrans isn't necessarily the operator of our transit systems, but we do have a lot of infrastructure that, supports transit and our operators. So a lot of operators are using our state highway system to get from point A and to B on their transit routes. So we wanted to make sure that we had engagement that was meaningful, but still applicable to our state highway system. So again, wanted to make sure that we're engaging with people that have that understanding. We also wanted to vet priority needs and present certain types of improvements that are transit related to these groups of people to, gauge their interests and see what their communities would, benefit from. We also wanted to gather feedback from our transit partners as well as our transit adjacent groups in the purpose of building momentum towards implementation. Because essentially what we want to do with these district transit plans is take the needs that we're finding and turn them into, long-lasting projects that can really make a difference on the state highway system when it comes to transit operations. Next slide. So I'll jump into a bit about our engagement findings. And this is going to be a very high-level overview. We've done a ton of engagement. So back in the fall of 2025, we focused our engagement around reaching transit agencies and operators. And the purpose of this was essentially to make sure that we're understanding the needs from their perspective. So as they are the operators, they know best, essentially. So what we did there was kind of take into account the locations of where they're seeing their buses, delayed in traffic, for example, or where there's locations of bus stops that have poor amenities or maybe not even a single amenity. There's some operators, especially in some rural areas, that don't even have signs for where their bus stops are. So that's definitely, something that we as Caltrans want to take into account and address as a need. We then jumped into our spring 2026 timeframe, what we're calling phase 2A engagement. This was again with our transit agencies and operators, and then also our MPOs, our RTPAs, our cities and counties. And what we did here was take the highest priority needs that we did through our data analysis and vet them again through our agencies and operators and try and understand what kind of solutions might be beneficial for those locations. Further, in phase 2B, which is something that we've been doing this past summer and we have been doing specifically this month as well. It's getting soon where we're wrapping that up, but that's where we're meeting with our transit adjacent groups. And that here, what we're doing is taking what we heard from the transit operators as what might be beneficial for their communities, taking it to these groups and really vetting it, trying to understand exactly how some kind of Caltrans improvement could help their communities. And specifically, what the priority issues are for their groups. So if you want to jump into the next slide, I'll talk a little bit about those type of groups that we met with, and then also just some big picture findings of what we heard during these engagement sessions. So some of the groups that we met with would be health and human services groups, some school groups, workforce development groups, affordable housing groups, maybe some businesses, tourism, economic development departments, also some environmental and climate and public health groups, and then of course arts, cultural, placemaking, maybe some nonprofits, CBOs, groups like that, and then lastly some employers, advocacy groups, and tribal organizations as well. And some of the biggest picture findings that we found were that getting to transit is often one of the most significant barriers. So things like sidewalk gaps, limited ADA access, poor bike connections. We also heard that basic bus stop infrastructure is a widespread need across the whole state. So, things like not having shelters, not having shade, not having seating, things like that. We also heard that communities are really wanting stronger transit priority on congested corridors, particularly in some of these more urban contexts. And then another example of what we heard, and then I'll pass it over to Alyssa to talk about the District 11 transit plan, is that transit needs really need to be integrated into Caltrans planning and project development processes a lot earlier than they are now. So that is something that we're actively working on, and I think we're going to continue to engage and have those conversations. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Alyssa to talk about the District 11 plan.
Thank you, Audrey, for providing the district transit plan overview. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alyssa Fee, Associate Transportation Planner and the Rail and Transit Coordinator from the Planning Division at Caltrans District 11. I'll be presenting on the District 11 Transit Plan and our ongoing transit initiatives. Oh, sorry, next slide. Thank you. And next slide. Thank you. So here's an overview of transit within the San Diego and Imperial County region. There are 4 major transit agencies that operate over 150 types of bus routes. Not listed, but Sandag and Imperial County Transportation Commission offer paratransit and van pool programs that provide service to eligible riders to navigate mobility around the region. We also have 8 passenger rail lines that are operated by MTS, NCTD, Amtrak, and Metrolink. There are 7 direct access ramps along I-15 and I-805, and we have 2 centerline stations. I believe you all were able to visit the City Heights Transit Plaza and El Cajon Boulevard Transit Plaza. So glad to hear you all had a great time. And we have approximately 2.5 miles of bus-only lanes along I-15 and I-805 along I-15 between I-805 and I-8 in north and southbound directions that operate 24 hours a day. And lastly, we also have the Coronado Bay Ferry. Next slide. Building off of what Audrey previously presented on, the district transit plan engagement meetings consisted of 3 rounds of engagement. We had phase 1, 2A, and 2B. Phase 1 is not shown on the slide, but District 11 met with transit agencies, operators, MPOs, RTPAs, and other local jurisdictions back in fall 2025. The district transit plan project team presented an overview of the project, gathered feedback on operator and partner needs and priorities, and which directly informed the needs assessment. And during this phase, Maptionnaire was a map-based tool that was shared with our partners, enabling them to provide location-specific and segment-focused feedback by placing pins on an interactive online map. Our partners from San Diego and Imperial County submitted over 70 comments, and these pins highlighted areas of concern and suggested opportunities for improvement. During phase 2A, that took place during spring 2026, where we re-engaged the same partners from phase 1. The project team reported the input we received during phase 1 back to the same partners during phase 2A. The key input reported included local transit needs, gaps, challenges, and priorities as they relate to state routes. The key topics from the input included transit service and coverage, access and amenities, operational challenges, and current and future plans. We also presented improvement types and gathered additional feedback to be included in the final plan. Next slide. For phase 2B engagement meetings, we focus on transit adjacent groups and community-based organizations. So you may find examples of those in the blue box that Audrey had previously mentioned. So Caltrans District 11 held its final phase 2B engagement meeting last week. We contacted over 120 individuals from about 115 organizations. So attendees included advocacy groups, universities, hospitals, military facilities, tribal governments, local jurisdictions, and other major employers. The project team shared feedback from previous engagement meetings and the needs assessment results. The phase 2B participants provided input on transit improvement considerations. And the discussions highlighted recurring opportunities for better connections, reiterating the need for improvements. Next slide. So District 11's takeaways on this slide are based on the transit partner engagement meetings that are the engagement meetings and mapping exercise from phase 1 and 2A, and they are as follows: safety and accessibility, connectivity and coverage, speed and reliability, stops and wayfinding, infrastructure and resilience, and electrification. And since our phase 2B meetings just recently concluded, we weren't able to include the key takeaways in our presentation, but we still wanted to highlight some of them from those engagement meetings. So touching on safety and accessibility, several participants highlighted the need for safety and accessibility via better first last mile connections from transit stops to hospitals, military bases, schools, and other major hubs. Another need mentioned is to better inform the public, planners, and policymakers on a safe systems approach. The need for more connectivity and coverage that focuses on better connections for pedestrian and cyclist infrastructure, particularly where on and off ramps intersect with local roads. Incorporating transit signal prioritization elements to allow buses to bypass traffic and reduce wait times for riders, as well as support for additional bus only and queue jump lanes. Infrastructure and resilience, upgrading aging infrastructure that communities use daily, especially in rural communities, is something we heard in our most recent meetings. And as a reminder, Caltrans is not a transit operator, and our role is limited regarding operational changes. However, the great thing about our district is that we have a strong and collaborative working relationship with our partners. So when needs or challenges arise, our partners are often already aware, and if not, we communicate proactively and work together to address improvements where feasible, incorporating them into planning documents for future projects. Next slide. So in addition to the engagement meetings, we also presented an update on the transit plan during the Caltrans District 11 Complete Streets Bicyclist and Pedestrian Advisory Committee Q2 meeting, and that took place back in May 2026. We received an inquiry from a BPAC member and made sure to include them in the engagement meetings. Next slide. So far, the District 11 Transit Plan completed tasks include the draft existing conditions report, engagement meetings for Phase 1, 2A, and 2B, and the draft transit needs assessment. For the upcoming tasks, it includes the final engagement summary report to be completed in the fall of 2026, which will be included in the draft plan. The draft District 11 Transit Plan will be open for public review during winter 2026. And the statewide story map, which should be finalized early next year in January of 2027. The final District 11 Transit Plan is scheduled to be completed during early spring 2027. We're hoping it's in around February. Next slide. We presented the Caltrans District 11 Transit Plan, so now we'd like to transition into other high-level transit projects throughout our district. These transit efforts are in collaboration with regional and transit partners. So the recently concluded District 11 transit efforts include the part-time transit-only lane pilot project, also known as the Bus on Shoulder. It operated from summer 2022 to summer 2025. The pilot focused on MTS Rapid 225, which allowed the bus to operate on the I-805 and SR94 shoulders, which allowed the bus to bypass vehicle congestion during peak travel times. The project has since concluded, and the report is currently being finalized by SANDAG. The Downtown La Mesa Trolley Prioritization Study concluded in spring of 2026, and the study was led by SANDAG and the City of La Mesa, where the project team evaluated potential improvements along MTS's Orange Line trolley between I-8 and Lemon Avenue. And so the current District 11 transit efforts include the Airport Transit Connection, which will create a direct link between the San Diego International Airport and our regional transit system. A big project going on right now is the Losan Rail realignment. The project team is analyzing and working to determine how to best reduce travel times, enhance safety, and increase capacity along the entire San Diego segment of the Losan Rail corridor. The Downtown to Border Rail Study will explore solutions for the rail corridor from downtown San Diego to San Ysidro at the border. And we are also currently working on 6 rapid bus route projects, which will focus on the proposed bus routes that will operate on segments of the state highway system within San Diego County. Those types of improvements will include bus priority lanes, managed lanes, intersection improvements, transit signal priority, and station enhancements. Next is the Otay Mesa Transit Planning Study that will assess current transit services and identify opportunities for improvements in the Otay Mesa area. In District 11, we are working to develop our transit capability. So if any needs or concerns arise that are within or adjacent to our state highway system related to transit, please feel free to contact us and we will work to address them. And also not listed, but Caltrans has worked in collaboration with ICTC and IVT, which is Imperial Valley Transit, and other key stakeholders on the Calexico Intermodal Transportation Center, which was recently completed in May of 2026. And we are currently working on the Calexico East Port of Entry Intermodal Center with ICTC. That's scheduled to be completed around 2030. Next slide. In addition to those projects previously mentioned, we have also been working on the development of transit-related feasibility studies, the building a strong transit program, a strategic assessment for District 11 feasibility study, assessed our district's transit planning framework, identified critical regional needs, highlighted new transit supportive features and elements, and worked to advance cost-effective investments to improve transit reliability, rider safety, and first last mile connectivity. I'd like to note that it does say completed, but we are addressing comments from internal reviews, and we do have a goal to finalize the study by end of August 2026. And we recently kicked off 2 transit feasibility studies for the new fiscal year 2026 to 2027. So the transit readiness feasibility study will develop a framework that supports more effective planning and operational decision-making for addressing transit needs on the state highway system. This is in alignment with Caltrans Director's Transit Policy, DP40. So DP40 focuses on Caltrans's commitment to improve transit access and operations on our facilities. And our last feasibility study will identify and prioritize opportunities within and adjacent to state highway system to support complete street investment decisions, strengthen coordination with local and regional partners, and establish a repeatable framework for proactively identifying safe routes to school improvements. Next slide. And I just wanted to thank you all for your time, and my contact information has recently changed. So if you'd like to reach out to me, Tatsuko can provide that information. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for that amazing. Oh, sorry, Joshua.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Josh Pulverman. I am the Chief of the Office of Transit Planning in our Headquarters Division of Mass Transportation. Next slide, please. So looking at now, we've heard about the district transit plans. Now we're changing focus a little bit to our transit policy and policy implementation. So really taking a look at what has previously been presented, now looking at that at a little bit higher level. The district transit plans are a portion or an outcome of one of many that come out of our director's transit policy. So the goal of the transit policy implementation plan is to move from policy direction to practical implementation. The implementation plan is where we will identify the specific actions needed to carry the policy forward. So that includes actions required by Senate Bill 960, items identified in the governor's transit executive order, N726, recommendations received from the Transit Transformation Task Force, as well as input that we've received through internal and external engagement. We are looking closely at the Complete Streets Action Plan as a model which identifies high priority efforts over a defined time frame and uses action tables with tasks, descriptions, deliverables, completion dates, and lead and supporting divisions. And our intent is to make the work understandable and easy to track for both Caltrans staff and our external partners. Next slide, please. So looking at some of the key upcoming milestones for the development of the Transit Implementation Action Plan. Between March and June, we met with key transit stakeholders throughout the state to inform the development of the Policy Implementation Action Plan. We held a series of themed listening sessions where we shared current transit efforts, and this was also a platform to help inform potential actions in the implementation plan. We've wrapped up the nomination approval process, and we will be holding our first California Transit Advisory Committee meeting on September 3rd. The CalTAC is meant to provide strategic input and technical guidance to guide implementation of key Caltrans documents, including As you've heard, the Caltrans District Transit plans, our director's policy, and subsequent updates or successor documents. Our initial draft of the policy implementation action plan is set to be completed later this year. In early 2027, we will release a project intake process and reporting framework to better track and coordinate transit-related projects. And we'll also release transit guidance related to performance metrics. And around the same time, as you've heard, we'll also be releasing the district transit plans. So we'll have those completed. And then finally, we have transit priority design guidance that is due in the summer of 2028. I'll note that the project intake process framework, the performance metrics guidance, and the transit priority design guidance are all statutorily required by Senate Bill 960. Moving on to our next slide. Again, as I previously highlighted, we did have a kickoff webinar and 6 listening sessions that were conducted between March and June of this year. We had approximately 468 transit stakeholders who participated, representing 79 transit partner agencies, and contributed valuable perspectives regarding the challenges of operating and delivering transit services on or near the state highway system. To ensure broad participation, we did have an additional listening session, which was held for our advocacy partners and non-governmental organizations. Media material and session recordings are available online, and I can drop a link if there is a chat feature. I'm not sure, but we can share that link as well, so that that can be distributed to this committee. And then finally, our last slide here, looking ahead to what's next and where we have opportunities for additional equity advisory committee input. So I don't think the slides advanced, but yes, there you go. Thank you. So again, looking at what's next and where we can look for additional opportunities and input specifically from the Equity Advisory Committee. Advisory committee members will have an opportunity coming up to help shape the implementation plan before it is finalized. We are planning on a 30-day public review period for the implementation plan, and we do encourage the EAC members to participate and review the material. When the public draft is released, we'll be looking for feedback that helps make the plan more actionable, specific, and useful for our partners. So things like specific suggestions for action items, changes to draft actions, anything that's missing in terms of implementation needs or places where the draft may be unclear. Our goal for the public review process is to help strengthen the plan before it is finalized. And we look forward to engaging with the EAC in the future through feedback on the implementation plan and providing regular updates on progress and deliverables. So that wraps up, I think, our section here. We appreciate the time this afternoon, and I'll hand it back over.
All right. Thank you so much to Audrey, Alyssa, and Joshua. At this time, we'll take any comments from our members. Is anyone? All right. Member Peggy.
First off, great presentation, very understandable and clear. Things that I have written down are that I'm really glad that there's going to be sort of a bus stop guidance document. One thing in particular, I'm just going to say here that would be really good is if we had, well, anyway, I'll just say this. The bus stop guidance document is great. I'm really interested in that. The other thing is, I think that I heard something about bike storage, but I'm not sure. So I just wanted to say that out loud. I'm sure other people have said that, but I want to make sure to say that. And the other thing, and that's, obviously at the bus stops. That's what I'm thinking. And the other thing that I think relates to first and last mile on the California highway system, getting to and from bus stops, is how fast cars are going on the highway system. So I don't know where that would come in to play in terms of, the control that this endeavor would have with regard to motorists' speeds. But I think that because we're talking about, the highway system and the highway being a place where people can often go very fast, some ways of controlling motorist speeds is a good thing. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, Member Peggy Martinez. I'm going to go online. I saw Member Lisa go first, so go.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Member Alvarado. Second, what Member Martinez shared, grateful to see the creation. My question is specifically for the speakers on the public input. I read that the first engagement netted 70 folks, and the second engagement you were able to increase. I guess my question or my encouragement would be, I'm noticing a trend of the kind of people we're asking aren't always congregated as transit riders. They're like transit boosters, transit supporters, transit operators like you mentioned. But if there is a way to ride the bus and just sit there with a piece of paper, you will get 70 riders on one route if you rode it 2 days in a row. And I say this because our voices are often left out, and we can sometimes add good points that are tension points between the operator and municipals. So like in my particular area, I attended a short range transit plan, and the data that they gave the subcontractor was skewed. And I only knew that as a transit rider because there were some things where they were like, we're not getting ridership on this particular route. And I'm like, that's a bike rider route. You cap out on 2 bike racks. So you get 3 people who have to wait on rotation. So there are some of these little nuances that I would love to contribute to the good works that you're doing, and this might be able to gift you some core data from core writers. That way, instead of having to go do a marketing offering on ride this bus, we did this fix, you could do something from within the transit writers where they could see, wow, look at how transit's taking a look at what we can do. Thank you.
Does anyone from the staff want to respond? Alyssa?
Yeah, I'll follow up. Thank you, Member Alvarado. I appreciate your comment. I believe since Caltrans is not a transit operator, we are only able to really collaborate with our transit agency partners. So at least for MTS, specifically to San Diego, I believe they do a secret writer program. So they are on the buses. They are taking surveys of daily riders and whatnot. So they are taking all of those comments into account. So very, very similar to what you had suggested. That's definitely been implemented in the San Diego region. But yeah, I really, really appreciate your comment. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I saw Member Wong. Did you still have a question?
I am unmuting. Thank you. Yes, I do have
Yes.
questions and comments. So interestingly, because of our COVID and the fiscal crises that many transit agencies are facing post-COVID as federal funding and support has waned, that many transit agencies who are seeking additional funding, either through ballot measures or through their state and local budgets, are almost being forced to make improvements to not only bolster their image and their credibility before they go to voters for funding, that the simple things are being focused on and are having a great benefit to the general public. Things like transit reliability, safety, cleanliness, uh, outreach to the disabled and senior community. So the simple things, if they had been implemented all along, would have been very, very beneficial to most people. So I think the transit plan should be more visionary and aspirational, that it shouldn't just ask what people want. I think that, as I just stated, the simple things that were focused on already have had benefits, and they could have been focused on long ago. So I think that one should start perhaps by having some very good data, some very good metrics to look at where we stand in each county, in each city, and in our state. The United States in general, I think we all agree, has had very little investment in its public transit. And unfortunately, even in cities like San Francisco and the Bay Area, which may have modal shares of, say, 23 or 24%, which is fairly good in this country, it's still like 40% or 50 or 60% that you might see in Mexico City or Zurich or Bogota, Colombia, or Curitiba, Brazil, or many other parts of the world. So in order to improve our mobility for everyone, we have to look at how we've been spending our money. That why is it that underdeveloped countries, underdeveloped cities, like Curitiba, Brazil, which pioneered bus rapid transit, transformed its transit system and also its environmental issues in a very short time, or Bogota, Colombia, with its largest bus rapid transit system in the world, serving huge numbers of its population on a daily basis, or Zurich, Switzerland, which is a model of transit, all done through streetcars, trains, buses. And so we have the opportunity for a transit plan to really focus on the things that actually work. And I think we should do that in a transit study that first have the data, have the statistics of how in California in general and most cities, transit modal share has fallen, has decreased over the last 10 years, despite spending billions and billions and billions of dollars on projects. Whereas other countries in the same time frame have increased transit modal share dramatically and have benefited more of the population, not only in terms of transit, but in bicycling and pedestrian movement and other mobility. Also, the transit plan really needs to look at something that's happening before our very eyes. That is the changing world of transit and transportation technology, which is already being implemented not only in this country, but in other parts of the world much more rapidly than here in California. Last month, Governor Newsom signed an executive order asking that all transit and transportation and political transportation technology. And I think that's something the transit plan should also focus on. So there are many things that can be done, but they're not new. They're things that have been done before, and I think we can all help to make that successful. Thanks.
Thank you, Member Wong. Does any staff want to respond to his comments?
I'll start, and then I think Josh, you can maybe take it from my comment. But I really appreciate your comment, Howard. As far as the district transit plans go, I think that a lot of your points are being addressed, particularly the ones around the data aspects. The district transit plans are taking into account various data sets as far as what we're doing to analyze where the needs actually are. We're looking at things like transit speed reliability. We're looking at our infrastructure gaps between bicycle and pedestrian users, various different things, and of course, equity data sets as well. But that is something that's kind of really like woven into what we're doing with the district transit plans. And again, I just want to remind everybody that the district transit plans are infrastructure based. So as far as operations go, that's kind of like the next step, right? And that's something that I think we can really take a lead on as Caltrans, as we're not the operators. What we can actually do is a lot of infrastructure improvements. And I think, you know, overall, you kind of mentioned talking about like what's the vision of, you know, transit, especially in California. I think that's what's coming next, which is the statewide transit plan. And that's going to be more of like a vision setting document that talks a lot more about like various transit things, because again, the district transit plans are very limited in the scope of what we're doing. So Josh, I just want to see if you have, you know, additional thoughts on that as far as the statewide transit plan goes.
Yeah, no. Thanks, Audrey. That really, I think, is what we want to focus on with that statewide transit plan. That's really where we're going to have more the policy centric, focus. Whereas the district transit plans, you're looking at, specific areas across the state, looking at individual needs. Ideally, probably the state transit plan should have probably, come first, but no, but that's definitely, I think, where we see more of this high level, action setting goals will definitely be in the state transit plan. But no, I think, Audrey, you've covered everything pretty well.
All right. Thank you so much. Next, we have Member Torres Van Bleck, followed by Member Rousey.
Thank you, Chair, and thanks to the staff for the presentation. I'm happy to hear that there's a District 11 transit plan being developed concurrently adjacent to the statewide plan. I think that provides a strategic opportunity to coordinate. And I appreciate Member Wong's reminder about, and about the urgency to be aspirational in our thinking. And so I'm curious, and I'm looking forward to item 11, where I'm hoping that through that discussion around the transportation plan, we'll also discuss what our mode share goals are and what the plan is to achieve that. I know the city of San Diego, for example, has mode share goals and has developed a plan to achieve that. So I'm curious what that might look like from the state perspective. In regards to transit facilities, it was great to see the Centerline stations today. And thanks for mentioning the bus on shoulder pilot. That was a project rooted in community advocacy as an alternative to the 94 express lanes expansion. And so that was something that community members were able to secure with Sandag and Caltrans as a partner. Do you know how that's performed? I know you said that that there will be a report soon. I'm curious if you know how that's performed, the bus on shoulder pilot. And then kind of building on that, I'd be curious to know if Caltrans and even District 11 has conducted an analysis looking at how transit operates in bus-only lanes on freeways versus how transit operates in high occupancy vehicle lanes. And we've got some to compare in San Diego. We have transit-only lanes that we rode today. We also have the bus moving in carpool lanes, where the carpool lane is more prone to being congested. So I'm curious what the performance difference is between those two, so we can inform, our investments in transit versus HOV lanes. That's been a hot topic here in this region for a long time. Yeah, so I'll leave it there. Thanks.
All right. I see Alyssa, you want to take it?
Yeah, thank you, Randy, for your comment. As far as the bus on shoulder project, I believe there's a draft version out right now. Did you? Okay, pass it to my office. Should be out.
So for the bus on shoulder, there's a draft version that's been submitted for review.
Oh, okay.
It's not a final, but that was completed with Sandag because they were the ones who were operating the service. I think a lot of it was successful, but there were some issues that do arise from it, and it is a pilot that has to be approved. We are looking at that at a statewide level. Our traffic operations division is the one who'll be reviewing how this operates because it's an operational issue and seeing if they want to continue that or change. There is legislation that would have to pass for that to be permanently going. That's why it is a pilot. So there are multiple steps for that. This is actually the second bus on shoulder that was in the region. Back in 2006 with Go California, we also did one that was on the 52 to the 805. That had some issues, wasn't as successful because it had to connect. But this one, I think, I don't want to promise anything, but it looks like it was successful on multiple fronts. But from a traffic operations standpoint, that's what they want to see, the performance. And I haven't read that report yet. I'm looking for it. Oh, I'm so sorry. I am Roy Aboud. I'm the Office Chief for Transportation Planning for Caltrans District 11, serving San Diego and Imperial County. And then there was another question. Maybe I can help. What? Oh, we Caltrans have not conducted a study on the operations of the bus only lane versus running on HOV, but there is a difference between those. Some of our HOV running rapid transit have direct access ramps that they operate on, so that would influence some of that, but we have not done a study yet. That could be something that we do look into.
Oh, what was the last part you said?
That is something we could look into.
Oh, cool. Excellent. Thank you.
We are doing some other, as highlighted by Alyssa, we are doing some transit operation work, so we can maybe start that conversation. So thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Thanks, Alyssa. Yeah,
All right.
sure.
Appreciate the conversation. Member Rousey.
Yeah, hi, Michelle Rousey here. I'm wondering, with all these local districts and the difference between the statewide with Caltrans and things like that. And I just want to make sure that not only the local but the statewide are always looking at their accessibility and how people access, whether it's the disabled community or our seniors or anybody, how they access information about changes that are made within the district and the planning of the projects and things like that. I just want to make sure that the outreach is done in a way that not only respects the community, but respects that people have different needs in how they access information. Thank you.
Oh. Alyssa, do you want to? Yes.
Thank you, Michelle, for your comment. Caltrans District 11 is actually involved in a couple of different committees, accessible service advisory committees with MTS. We also are in partners with FACT. They are Sandag's CTSA, the consolidated. Oh no, the acronym is escaping me right now. Yes, thank you, Randy. But they basically are the on-call paratransit organization that helps out with paratransit vehicles and providing service to folks in San Diego County. So we are very much involved with the paratransit, and we are incorporating that into our transit plans and transit efforts as well.
Can I follow up on that?
Yes.
As San Diego and more rural areas are really spread out, our paratransit services around the state may and probably already having issues when we're looking at deficits with our transit system, that our paratransit and our fixed routes are affected, and in affecting our fixed routes, we are affecting our paratransit services in a lot of areas. If you cut one, you're cutting both, and it impacts our communities greatly. So thank you, and thank you for working with a diverse group that I can see that you guys have good intentions of making changes that will improve modal services around your area. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rousey. I'm going to pass it back to Member Torres Van Bleck, and we're going to be out of time after that.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, today's tour reminded me about the importance of bathroom access for those riding in transit in particular. And I'm curious if either the state or the district plan identifies and discusses like bathroom access for transit riders, where those services might be. And I'm curious for this headquarters team if bathroom access is identified in any of the transit plans, and if there are any standards that the agency has in regards to what like a adequate level of bathroom access should look like in a high quality, dignified transit system. Thank you.
We can take that one. Sorry, what was that?
Oh, I said go ahead.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so that is a super great point. And no, the district transit plans do not have bathroom access as a metric. I don't think we have data around that. And that's definitely like an interesting thing that we could look to in the future. I think especially from an infrastructure perspective, what we were really focused on is one, speeding up transit on our system, and two, improving access to transit stops. So that's something that I guess, is maybe the next iteration of these district transit plans. And I definitely will take that back to our data and digital services team who work on a lot of different transit related data, see if we can maybe find some kind of data source for that.
I just want to add one quick thing. This is Roy Boot again. One of the biggest issues with restrooms is maintenance. Who is going to be responsible for maintaining these, and who has the specialty to be able to do like a restroom? That's one of the issues with those centerline stations. We entered into an agreement so that the bus drivers had access so they could use those restrooms. But for the general public, there has to be funding and availability to clean, check, maintain, and repair. And that becomes a larger issue than just having restrooms available. So sometimes the trade-off is, do we want to operate a bus or do we want to clean restrooms with our operating expense if you're a transit operator? That's just some of the things that we hear sometimes. So thank you.
All right. Thank you for that feedback. I think that it will be a priority for EAC members to kind of advocate for, because yeah, if we want more riders, I mean, we need to include that. But Member Martinez, do you have a comment, question? Or who was it? Nope. Oh, Member Rousey, I think it was you. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, locally, our bus drivers have special commodes or bathroom access. And many times I find I map out before I leave home where I can use a restroom in public. And there's not a lot of them. And so it leaves access for seniors and people with disabilities without a bathroom unless they hit a main hub, like a BART station and things like that. And many of them don't have access to bathrooms, even at some of the stations. So, when you're out on fixed route buses and things like that, you're relying on open businesses who have basically shut their bathrooms due to COVID and still have not reopened their bathrooms to public use. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Rousey. I know we're out of time, but Member Wong, if you have a quick comment.
Sure. The restrooms that recently in the San Francisco Bay Area, our regional BART train system reopened its restrooms. It had closed them originally after 9/11 in 2001 attack in New York City. So it took about 25 years to reopen. And part of the reason for their reopening was customer service. and providing the amenities that track riders back to their system. So again, one of the things that the transit plan might want to look at is best practices in best transit agencies and see what their policies are in terms of having restrooms. I think there many great transit systems do have restrooms, and it's part of the public service.
Yes, thank you, Member Wong. I think this is a great conversation for the planning subcommittee um, to bring back in a future meeting for further discussion. I think there's a lot of interest, and I know I've heard it a lot from writers in my area that sometimes they just won't use public transit because they have, health issues, or they're just, riding buses for a very long time. So obviously they need a bio break. So anyway, something to think about for staff to bring back to a subcommittee. So with that, do we have any public comment on this item?
Chair, I'm not seeing any requests at this time to comment on the item.
All right, awesome. So are we okay to take a break, or should we keep going? Yeah, okay. So we'll do tab item 7, and then we'll take a stretch break. So tab 7, crosswalk and member requests. Tab 7 features an update on our member request process. I will pass it over to Tatsuko to lead the staff presentation on this item.
Thank you, Chair. There should be slides for this. Thank you. You can go to the first slide, please. Or the next slide. Thank you. All right. So staff wanted to take the opportunity to briefly update members on process improvements we are making to what we've been calling the crosswalk, which is where we track your member requests for future topics to bring to meetings or other advisory opportunities like subcommittees. To ensure more consistency and transparency around member requests, we are adding a review of the crosswalk of member requests as a standing agenda item. So beginning at today's meeting, this will now be on every agenda for our meetings moving forward. We are currently working through 21 member requests that have been submitted since January. You will see continued updates on those requests in our crosswalk of member requests attachment. For today's meeting, that attachment can be found in the book item for tab 7. Beginning at our next meeting, the October business meeting, staff will use this time on the agenda to report out on any new member requests that have been submitted since the previous meeting. We did share a preview of this updated process with members at our biannual member one-on-ones that took place in June. We heard a lot of good feedback, and we will be following up with all members in advance of the October meeting, just so everyone knows what to expect as we transition to that new process. Next slide, please. As we have worked through our current member requests, staff and committee leadership have identified 2 member requests that are likely to fit within a future work plan and have the potential for upcoming advisory opportunities. Those 2 items are roundabout safety, including accessibility and navigability, and emergency preparedness efforts through Caltrans Emergency Services. So we will be sharing updates with committee members as details become available on these items, but we are really looking forward to being able to bring those for you all. Next slide, please. I'm going to turn it back over to the chair for facilitation of any discussion.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tatsuko. I know that this has been a major item even when I was vice chair, but Vice Chair Ramirez and I have made it a point to really tackle some of these crosswalk priorities that members have. So we hope that the membership sees that as a good use of our time during these meetings, and also sometimes realizing that some of these priorities do need to go back to the subcommittees, and then bring back, updates and stuff like that. But at this time, are there any comments or feedback from our members? Yes.
Is it okay to suggest new ones in this?
Yeah, this
No?
is
Member requests?
Yeah, for the
No, so
for
we are asking members will be submitting written requests moving forward. So we will share more about that process. It is very challenging for staff to track the many means by which we get member requests. So sometimes they happen in meetings, but they happen via text, via phone call. So we do need a standardized process to make sure that we're catching them all. So yes, you will be hearing more about that. And you'll be able to submit more member requests shortly.
Is it okay to do both? To email it and also suggest one?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I was reminded today on the tour about we were chatting about the need for the maintenance on Caltrans right of way. And I started using, Brenny sent me the link for the CSR, the customer service request to report trash and dumping. It's a very clunky app. I have some suggestions on how to improve it, and I think that Californians across the state would probably appreciate ways to make it easier to report dumping and litter. I know that's a big issue, and so I think there's an opportunity to update that app. And so the tour did remind me, and I will email you about that, Tatsuko. So thanks also for the reminder about the process. I understand too, a lot of ideas come up, so I'll be sure to follow up on that. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Member Martinez?
There we go. Well, I want to thank staff. When I first joined the group, my concern about the safety and navigability, accessibility to roundabouts that are built in in pedestrian heavy areas has been a real concern. And a couple of years ago, I did a presentation for Caltrans District 1 on safe roundabout or accessible roundabouts, and also a presentation to the CTC. Anyway, so it's been something that's been on my mind for a long time, and it's kind of a thorny topic, and I just want to acknowledge and appreciate staff for taking it to heart, to hand, to moving it forward, and then for us to learn more about how decisions are made, and having the opportunity to communicate with Caltrans staff and others about this topic that I think is very important is really it's incredible, and I appreciate it a lot. So it has taken time, but that's okay, because we're going to discuss it and we're going to learn more. And in my hope, of course, is that in me pressing this point, that other people, that you guys all learn and come away with your better understanding of the concern about accessible roundabouts. So thank you, everybody, for moving it forward.
Yes, thank you for your comments, Member Martinez. Do we have anybody else? Any other feedback from our members online? Member Wong?
Regarding safety at roundabouts, actually, that could be also expanded generally into Vision Zero programs. The problems with rising injuries and deaths of pedestrians, bicyclists, and drivers. So, roundabouts are probably just a small part, but an important part of Vision Zero. Thanks.
Yes, thank you, Member Wong. Seeing no one else, do we have public comment on this item?
Wait, wait.
Oh, sorry. Do we have another hand?
I'm sorry. I wasn't able to raise my hand, but I was trying to.
Okay, go ahead, Member Armis Kelly.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I'm really glad that you are really being intentional about the crosswalk. It'd be nice to be able to see how we've journeyed through this crosswalk. What have we accomplished, and what are we still lacking in that area of the crosswalk? Just so that we can, make sure that we have reference to what we're doing and how we're moving in the direction of meeting those needs in the crosswalk. And that's basically all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Armis Kelly. I think that reminded me also, last night, Vice Chair and I were having a conversation as staff was doing a presentation to the CAB and, seeing the milestones and the progress that the EAC has done. I think we can also include the crosswalk in a future presentation to show those milestones and just to see the progress that we're actually getting some action done. So I appreciate the work that staff has put into this. I really do appreciate you all being intentional about this because it's been a long request, but we're here and I'm excited to get those items taken care of. So anybody else? No, we're good. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, thank you. And we said no public comment on this item, right?
Correct. There is no request for comment on the item.
All right. So I think we've arrived at our short break so we can stretch and do any bio breaks that's needed. Is 5 minutes okay? 10? 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Let's do 10 minutes. So it is 2:55. We'll be back at 3:05.
People are dancing even.
All right. We'll get started in 10 seconds. All right. Hope everybody got the break they needed, and we are back. We will move on to tab 8, ad hoc subcommittee reports. At this time, we will hear from our subcommittee chairs, and we will start with Subcommittee Chair Naomi Iwasaki.
Thank you, Chair Gonzalez. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Excuse me. So as chair of the data implementation, I'm happy to share a report back from our last subcommittee meeting, which was in June. We had 5 members present, including myself, and we had a great presentation and discussion on the Caltrans Equity Index User Guide, led by our Carolyn Abrams, who many of you know, as well as Macy Narani, who is an equity and data policy advisor. We received just a little bit of summary on some of the feedback that we received on the Caltrans Equity Index User Guide, and then members provided further feedback about how the user guide could be made more accessible. Let's see, I thought I had my more robust notes pulled up, but if you just bear with me for a second, I'll try to pull them up. Let's see, the next steps for the Caltrans ECI team will be to report back on how the Equity Advisory Committee and subcommittee members can be incorporated into a user guide at a November subcommittee meeting. So we'll continue to be engaged on that subject. I want to just encourage folks who may not have had the data implementation subcommittee on your radar. It's a great opportunity to talk about how we can share or encourage the state to support agencies and share data so that the same things are being measured across different jurisdictions so that we can better understand where benefits and burdens are impacting different communities. Excuse me. I think, let's see, we gave some feedback during that meeting to the ECI users, to the ECI staff that we hope to hear back. So coming to the meeting in November will be a chance for you to learn a little bit more about the equity index, as well as understand what staff's feedback were to our responses are to our feedback. And we asked if we could possibly have best practices from presentations across the state. So I'm looking forward to seeing what staff comes back with.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Next, we're going to move on to Committee Chair Lisa Alvarado.
Good afternoon, team. Zooming in from Yurok Wiyot territory. Shout out to the staff who supported me with a summary. I was not in attendance to our last subcommittee meeting. Before I get into that, I want to share a little bit about some personal news. I went through a move, and so I'd love to chat with the team about, for the good of the order, about what the subcommittee planning team can look like in the future. But to move forward with the June 16th report, we had Member Martinez, Member Rousey, Member Wong in attendance. We had a presentation from the California Master Plan of Aging, and it was presented by Anna Acton and Jackie Tomskin, Director of the Master Plan and the Director of Policy and Research for Engagement. What took place was an update just on the plan itself. We discussed the CTC needs assessment, looked at local aging and disability action planning grant specifically, and tried to look at more opportunities to collaborate with the disability and aging community. Offline, staff and I talked about anything that gets spoken about within this year Could we then look at it next year and have a deeper dive? So when we say collaborating more closely with that community, that's kind of what we mean. There were no actions taken. The next time that we're hoping to meet is November 17th. In that meeting, we'll probably come together as a committee and discuss what the collaboration with the Department of Aging transportation related initiatives could look like. And then some other things that came up that could be of conversation in the next meeting is the freight mobility plan. We all got that update last time. We also talked about the statewide bike ped plan. A lot of you seen the emails come through looking for folks to self-nominate. Also, the anti-displacement policy implementation. I know all of us take a serious interest in equity, looking at how Caltrans is cleaning up some of these roadways. And then the suggestion today that I heard loudly to talk about some of these district plans and bathrooms. So noted. And I will turn it over to you, Chair.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the report. And now we move on to Subcommittee Chair Martha Armis Kelly.
Chair, Member Armis Kelly just texted me that she's unable to access her laptop. So
Okay.
looks like Carolyn.
So Carolyn will provide the report.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Carolyn Abrams. The Community Engagement Policies and Practices Subcommittee did not convene in June. There was a shift in the advisory work that was slated for that subcommittee. However, we did want to provide an update on the advisory work that the subcommittee contributed to at the April meeting and what has taken place since then. So in April, the subcommittee members contributed to the Senate Bill 1 Cycle 5 Guidelines and Equity Supplement, and they provided substantial feedback, which was then incorporated into the Round 5 Guidelines and Supplement. So that feedback is captured in one of the previous commission book items, and we are happy to circulate some specific details around that as well. But I just wanted to elevate that work and note that it was very impactful. And as the SB1 team concludes those efforts, they will return to the EAC at the December executive meeting to report out on the work that they've been doing. So you'll hear from them at the end of this year. As far as next steps go, the Community Engagement Subcommittee will reconvene on November 18th, and there are a number of topics that will be slated for that agenda. First and foremost, we will have the ZEV Equity Action Plan, and then there will also be an update from Caltrans on their engagement efforts. This includes the statewide engagement playbook that members have been involved with over the past year, the statewide engagement portal, and also the director's policy on community engagement. Thank you, Chair.
All right. Thank you so much for that report. And just really quick, just for transparency reasons, and is there any information that you can provide of why the committee was not able to meet?
Absolutely. So originally, and this I believe was at the May meeting, the ZEV Equity Action Plan was presented to the full committee, and there was a recommendation that this is brought to the Community Engagement Subcommittee for additional input. Their timeline has been shifted, and so they will be ready to bring that to the subcommittee in November. And in the meantime, there wasn't another advisory opportunity that had been slated for that subcommittee. So out of respect for the members' time, we opted to cancel, and that decision was made in partnership with the subcommittee chair and determined that we would reconvene when the advisory work was more timely.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And just for my note taking, you said you got the subcommittee is meeting again November 18th, the next one, right?
That's correct.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Is there any public comment on this item?
No, there was no request to comment on the item. Thank you.
All right. Any questions or comments from the dais from our members? Online? Okay. Seeing none, we will go to tab 9, member reports. Tab 9 is committee member reports. Are there any members who would like to provide a verbal report at this time?
Madam Chair.
Yes, sorry, I saw Lisa Alvarado first, and then we'll go to member Armis Kelly.
Hey y'all, I really appreciate these check-ins because I had a busy week in Tulare County. One thing I want to talk about was last time we gathered, I shared about the CTC dropping down no motorized scooters on transit because of the lithium batteries, and I had shared a firsthand experience of a student going through midterms. He got asked to leave. We were able to get a route supervisor and we cleared that up. Unfortunately, the first week of school happened at Fresno State and we had the same exact issue, but that specific route supervisor was not willing to let another student who happened to be Black. And so the bus was delayed an hour. The student could not lock his bike up anywhere because we don't have that infrastructure, and they missed their first day of school. Because they did not know where to put their bike. So something I just here to reiterate again, the communications from CTC to transit administrators. I don't know if we can request that they give adequate notifications to riders or how we're navigating virtual announcements, but something I would really love for us to take a look at. The second thing is we had a meeting with the short route transit plan, and it was specifically for city municipal staff and a contractor that they hired. I was asked to leave the meeting because they did not want to hear my voice, and they said that I was a member of the media. And I was like, I'm not a member of the media. They're like, you're going to tell people about Route 17 getting canceled. And I was like, I will tell people about Route 17 getting canceled because that's a public interest conversation. So after the city manager and council member approved me to stay, they basically are eliminating 3 routes, and then they opened up that route same day for comment period. But what I want to illuminate is the culture that's happening in District 6 around transit. It seems that the louder and the stronger the community voice is getting, the more we're being pushed out. So really interested in how best to use my voice and my advocacy. But just something I want you to share because I was invited as an advocate. And then when I was there, they recognized that I had been vocal and then they asked me to leave. And that's when we had a big kerfuffle and it was very embarrassing, but the ATAC members had my back. And so something I would love for y'all to know. The third thing is we had a city council meeting 3 weeks ago where the city manager asked to reappropriate $795,000 from our ATP cycle. There was no public comment. There was no engagement in the community. The only reason I found it is because I sign up for city council alerts. So I saw it come up on the dais. I emailed and I have a personal meeting with the city manager on the 2nd, but they're repurposing the route from the Goshen corridor all the way to Ivanhoe for a safe route, which is 20 miles difference of location in a completely different community. So something I would wanted to bring up. And then the last thing is in the short-term transit plan that I just talked about where I was disinvited, allowed to stay in, one of the issues they talked about with transit rideability is the inability to tap into all users. Fortunately, this body educated me about Cal ITP, and we went through the data about most folks have access to credit cards or have access to physical cards like Chime or what have you. And so I have been told that we don't have Wi-Fi on the buses because we can't afford it. And so when I brought up Cal ITP, the pushback was we still don't have access to Wi-Fi on all buses. So just wanted to share with this body that, you know, as we're looking to emerge front and center as someone really looking to build equity on transit, we still don't have a way to pay for buses or transit fare other than the kiosk that's only open 8 to 5, closed an hour for lunch. And they're buses that ride past those times and before those times. So just wanted to speak up on my community's concerns. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Member Alvarado, and definitely noting all those notes. Thank you for bringing that up. Next, I had Member Armis Kelly, followed by Member Rousey.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a really quick comment to make. In my community, and I am in District 10, Caltrans District 10, I'm also part of the BPAC. I just would like to say if there's any way, when we come back to the idea of safety and inclusion, how can we create even a recommendation, if that's possible, through the EAC to have some type of statewide jurisdictional approach towards creating a plan for safety for bicycle and pedestrians. It's ridiculous that we have had this many fatalities in District 10. And I imagine that that's also something that is a concern for other areas in California. If we could have some type of report upon seeing these increases, how do we create a way of kind of having a checks and balances so that they can show that they've mitigated or made some type of mitigation towards safety for bicycle and pedestrians within those jurisdictions? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any follow-up from staff on that note? No, not yet. Yes? Nope. Okay. Next, I had Member Rousey.
Yeah, I have a presentation if staff is able to pull it up. If not, I'll read from what I have.
Yeah, Member Rousey, if you could read it out, we weren't able to add it in this time.
Okay, that's okay. Okay, so AC Transit services to be cut by 31% of pre-2019 levels unless we pass the Connect Bay Area ballot initiative. Without new funding, AC Transit will cut up to 16.4% of bus service and lay off as many as 300 employees beginning June 2027. According to new information released at the March Board of Directors meeting, taken all together, new cuts would mean 31% less service compared to 2019, as the East Bay Bus Agency is currently running an 80% of pre-pandemic service levels. Potential cuts are in a result of the agency's projected 50 million long-term structural annual deficit starting next year. The fiscal deficit is being driven by decreasing revenues from statewide, regional, and local sales tax and rising operational expenses. Help prevent the AC Transit and transit across the Bay Area by gathering signatures to connect Bay Area Regional Transit Ballot Initiative on the ballot. They need to gather like over 200,000 signatures before the end of May. And that was a few months ago they were gathering those signatures. But this is the funding measure for the November 2026 ballot. Cuts were slated to start this year, but an emergency loan from the state government provides temporary funding to prevent cuts to AC Transit and other Bay Area transit through early 2027. A coalition of organizations co-led by Seamless Bay Area fought through the 2025 for the loan to stave off 1 year of service cuts. Now we are striving to get the Connect Bay Area measure into the ballot to avert long-term service cuts. I'm not going to continue reading because there's quite a bit more, but I just want to make people aware that there's going to be something on our ballot for the Bay Area about this, and that people need to be aware of it. And I know the Bay Area is not the only one that is in a deficit when it comes to funding for transit, and that we just need to be proactive in letting our communities know that this is coming up, at least for the Bay Area on the ballot. But I'm sure other areas in the state need to just make sure that people are getting the information so that they can be proactive and that we maintain our transit system, because there's like 20 lines or more that are going to be cut, and that has a huge impact. And anytime you cut fixed route, you're impacting paratransit services too, and that affects our seniors and people with disabilities also. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Member Rousey. Next, we had Member Martinez, followed by Member Wong.
Well, not something that you as staff can do anything about. I know that, but I think it's important to bring it to light because this may be occurring in other places. And that is, we have a California State University in Arcata called Cal Poly Humboldt, formerly Humboldt State University. Well, that entity has been funding some of our local transit, which has been incredibly helpful. They've got students and staff that use it, as does the community. But they have made a decision to stop funding a portion of transit, and it's going to affect a lot of people, including their own students and staff. Now, the thing that I find interesting, I guess, is that they can, they are an entity sort of like a sovereign nation in a sense, in that they can almost do whatever they want with regard to taxation and eminent domain and all sorts of stuff. And it's really disappointing to see this happening. And I'm mentioning this here out loud in this body, in this context, because this may be happening in other places around the state. And, I don't know how this can be that an education institution that, gets a lot of funding can decide to make a change like this. So just letting you know that the chances of this happening in other areas around the state, maybe, I don't know, but just letting you know that this is happening. The end. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Martinez. Member Wong?
Yes, wanted to add to Member Rousey's dire warnings about potential transit cuts in the San Francisco and San Francisco Bay Area. In the region, our regional train system, BART, may actually have to shut down 2 entire lines and close 6 stations. San Francisco Municipal Railway may also cut 20 lines and hours and, evening and weekend, which would be extremely detrimental, not only to getting people to work, to school, to evening jobs. So there's a real crisis. So we have 2 funding measures in the area, the regional sales tax measures that Member Rousey brought up, which requires only 50% plus 1 to pass, but polling shows that it is passing, but still only in the 54, 55% range at this time. So it's good news in a sense, but also not a sure thing. San Francisco also has its own additional San Francisco parcel tax measure for transit. That's a much smaller, fairly well-written, small amount per average for the average home, but increases for larger businesses. Nationally and throughout the state, we all know that transit agencies are facing fiscal crises. So there hopefully will be a look, perhaps through our, committee, to start looking at funding that other cities and other countries have employed to fund their transit systems. Some countries fund their public transit through federal funds. Some states fund it through state funds. So in the long run, we need to take another hard look at how public transit and mobility is supported. I just wanted to touch base on the comment about pedestrian traffic safety that was brought up. There has been some progress statewide, and I think that's something we should continue to support. The California passed AB 413, which created what is called the daylighting law, which eliminates parking at intersections adjacent to crosswalks. So in other words, it opens up the visibility of crosswalks by taking out parking spaces that block, the visibility of oncoming cars. And that has proven to be one of the main reasons why several cities in the world and this country have eliminated pedestrian traffic fatalities. So there are statewide laws that could, help Vision Zero, and that's something we might want to investigate. Of course, there's the downside, and then some areas like cities that eliminates tens of thousands of very scarce parking spaces. So there needs to be better parking management plans as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Wong. Seeing no one else, I will do mine really quick. So it's been busy 2 months, and as you all know and have heard me say it many times, I am very passionate about AB 98, which is our transportation circulation element at the local level to bring protections and mitigations for freight and truck traffic and all of that. So anyway, we have met with several cities across Riverside and San Bernardino counties. To the point that we have been able to put a grade on the city on how well they did in their community engagement, in their circulation elements, and their general plans. And so we're going to be releasing that report really soon. Also, our organization at CCAJ has released our Region and Crisis Part 2 report, and it's in our website, ccaj.org. So I encourage everyone to look at it when you have time. Some great reading material and homework for us all, just to see the impacts of transportation in our community, especially in our warehouse concentration communities in the Inland Empire, and how just it's been impacting not only road infrastructure, but even water infrastructure, utility infrastructure, and just all the impacts that come when you have these warehouse concentration areas, what we call diesel dead zones. And so just encourage folks to take a look at that report. It's gotten a lot of press and a lot of, it's just gone viral in our communities. But it has gone also to the governor's desk to ensure that we are providing those guardrails for our community members as we're thinking about either expanding or creating these truck routes for communities across, not only in the Inland Empire, but across California, because these warehouses are coming to other parts in California, such as the Central Valley, the High Desert, the Coachella Valley. And now we have this other monster that's coming our way, data centers, and how some jurisdictions are looking to fast track these, very impactful projects. So something to start looking at, and we're tracking. And also to Member Wong's and Member Rousey's point about ballot measures coming up, I think it's a trend across the board in California with every DOT. In our area, there's already a proposal also for District 8 in SBCTA and RCT, which is the Riverside County and then the San Bernardino County Transportation Authorities. They're also proposing ballot measures and tax increases for funding for infrastructure. But when are we really going to hold those corporations accountable, the ones that bring the massive truck traffics that degrade our roads? And so something to think about as we're also, advocating at the state level and how we fund future infrastructure and how we become less car dependent, which I think it's the goal of most of us here, members in the EAC. How do we promote and inspire folks to utilize public transit more? and biking and, the scooters, making it more safe for folks to use that in the streets anyway. So a lot of work's been done at the local level, and just hope that we really take this bottom up approach when it comes to communities and servicing them, and that the state is looking at the municipalities and what's going on in those jurisdictions. So with that, is there any public comment on this item?
No, there was no request to comment on the item. Thank you.
All right. So let's move on to tab 10, interagency updates. Tab 10 is our standing interagency updates item. I will pass it to Sequoia to start the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Members, Members, tab 10 is an information item highlighting updates from each of our agencies. The item will close with a review of our remaining 2026 work plan items. Next slide, please. I'm very excited to announce that our EAC membership applications are now open for the 2027-2029 term. We have a lot of seats that are open for application, so we're really excited for this round. Online applications open August 12th through Sunday, September 20th at 11:59 p.m. Again, they close on Sunday, September 20th at 11:59 p.m. That's a Sunday evening. There are many ways to access the application link, including the QR code that is on this slide. There's also a link to the application on this slide. There's links within the book item as part of this tab. The link can be found on the Commission's website and through the many emails that will be sent, have been and will be sent to members and outside stakeholders, as well as various social media avenues. Although we are opening recruitment up earlier this year than others, the new term will still begin in March 2027. So please help us get the word out to your networks, and we really look forward to this period of recruitment. Next slide, please. So next I'll share some highlights from the California Transportation Commission. Thank you to those members who have been serving as reviewers for Cycle 8 Active Transportation Program applications. You are part of a team of over 100 evaluators in the state, reviewing 317 applications. And for this period, nearly $3 billion in funding was requested, and the program has a capacity of $619 million. So thank you very much for your service in this process. Next slide, please. Next, I will highlight EAC member involvement in the AB 194 tolling guidelines update. In early August, members received an invitation to support and updates to these guidelines, which guide regional agencies and Caltrans, in toll facility approvals. The guidelines will be adopted by the Commission this coming winter. And finally, we expect the Zero Emission Vehicle Equity Action Plan team to return to our subcommittee in the fall for feedback and discussion, and very much look forward to that. So that concludes my highlights. I'll turn it over to Allison.
Thanks, Sequoia. Allison Joe, Deputy Secretary for Equity and Workforce at CalSTA. I have a few updates from us. If you could change to the next slide, please. Thanks. Apologies for the very content-dense, word-heavy slide, but we'll do it all in one. Just a big thank you to the EAC members who were able to review Cycle 8 Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program applications, the TIRCP, or sometimes called the TIRCIP program. The applications for Cycle 8 landed on everyone's desks in a literal thud in the spring, and the review happened this summer. Similar to the CTC's active transportation program reviews, these applications are very complex. They're very technical and they're very long, but we're very appreciative of the committee members who dove in with other technical experts from around the state to better understand the needs of our transit and our rail partners on the ground. And one, just understanding what the need is, but then also to understand and better get a sense of the complexity of the TIRCP review process. After 8 cycles, this continues to be challenging. So I really appreciate that there is a far greater need than there is funds available. And so we appreciate the thoughtfulness in your review. Second, much appreciation to Member Rousey for her work to bring the conversation regarding accessibility and transportation to this group and then beyond. The beyond is what I think is most critical because we are seeing some other conversations happening outside of the EAC. It's really helpful to see the impacts and partnerships with the California Department of Aging on their master plan for aging, as we had last meeting. The implementation of that plan is really critical. We can get words on a page, we can decide we're going to plan for things, and then we actually ultimately need to see progress and change. What we're hoping to do is we're starting to see this in our Complete Streets efforts, our transit accessibility opportunities, and thinking about broader transportation planning efforts. And we see that even today in our conversations. We don't have to go back and talk about so many of the details of the why. We have the why, now we're looking on the what. And then finally, CALSTA is hoping to bring more opportunities for this body to advise the Department of Aging on transportation access through our joint work. I would add that might be an advisory opportunity for the EAC to provide a more robust discussion of transportation issues at a Disability and Aging Community Living Advisory Committee, or DACLAC, meeting later this year or early next year. We are kind of returning the favor from our May meeting. We would love to, I think, from the agency and department perspective, love to continue that cross-pollination. It's really important for those who participate in the DACLAC and I see Michelle getting very excited about all of this. And it doesn't have to be Michelle only, but very excited to see the conversation continue and expand, especially since we have some really key transportation initiatives that are on the master plan for aging efforts, including transit, our needs assessment, the work around CalITP. So we are hoping to do that. Later this year, we're also looking forward to an update on the Port and Infrastructure Financing Program, or PFIP, in December. We will bring some of our grantees to the meeting in Southern California to discuss how communities have been involved in the implementation of this grant process, or of the grant itself, and really look at true community impact, how the infrastructure improvements have addressed environmental harms, and how grantees can partner with community, and even how grantees can be community, right? That's part of it. As always, I'm appreciative of your time. I hear it from my CALSTA colleagues as well. We really appreciate the insights that you are all providing throughout the year in this body, in subcommittees, as individual members, as organizations, and I'm really looking forward to bringing these items and more to you in 2026. So I'm handing it now to Tatsuko for the Caltrans update.
Thank you, Allison. So we heard earlier today about ongoing Complete Streets efforts around transit, including the district transit plans. The next Complete Streets item we will bring to members is the State Bike and Pedestrian Plan, which will be updated in 2028. Engagement for the updated plan is just beginning, and Complete Streets staff will be joining our upcoming October meeting to share more about the plan and begin to collect members' input. Next slide, please. Our next update is about ongoing implementation of the Caltrans Equity Index, commonly referred to as the EQI. Caltrans continues to engage the Data Implementation Subcommittee to prioritize use case development and ensure EQI is applied in ways that are impactful. Most recently, the subcommittee provided user testing for the draft EQI user guide, which has helped create a valuable resource for Caltrans staff when applying the tool to project planning and prioritization. And finally, I'll provide an update on our Caltrans anti-displacement policy, the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure 2.0, known as CAPTI 2.0, instructs Caltrans to develop a director's policy on anti-displacement to proactively safeguard housing stability and strengthen equity in transportation decision-making. This policy establishes a clear departmental commitment to avoid the acquisition of residential housing units to the maximum extent feasible. The policy also ensures that when displacement truly cannot be avoided, Caltrans will engage in transparent decision-making and uphold all legal and ethical obligations to affected residents. We anticipate there will be a 30-day public comment period on the policy in early September, and we'll send out more information to members when available. Members will also have the opportunity to provide advisory input on the policy's implementation plan, and that is also slated for our October meeting. Thank you. Thanks, Sequoia is up next.
Thanks, Satsuko. Sorry, I was notified that the link on our slide was an incorrect link to the QR code for the application, but it is correct in all of our emails. So don't use the slide. Please use all those beautiful constant contact emails that you've been receiving. All right, so we'll finish out our update today with a review of the committee work plan. So on this, please note that all September subcommittees have been postponed to November, and we definitely look forward to continuing to work with you all within the full committee and subject matter expert spaces. And so as was reviewed in our interagency updates, our full committee is going through the California Transportation Plan and the district transit plans today. Our subject matter experts have been and continue to review the transit and intercity rail TRCP grant applications, the active transportation program grant applications, the AB 289 speed safety cameras, and the AB 194 tolling guidelines updates. And then we'll continue to receive briefings and presentations on the California Transportation Plan. And I think there's one more slide. And this slide should be very familiar to all members. It's the very detailed graphic of all of the advisory opportunities that we've been working on for 2026, organized into full committee, our subcommittees, our subject matter experts, and briefings and presentations. And just want to highlight that we are very advanced in this plan, and we just really owe it all to the members for stepping into leadership and providing world-class advice to us. So thank you very much. And I think that concludes tab 10. Any questions or discussion? Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, staff, so much. Want to give a huge shout out to the staff for working on all of these updates. I know there's a lot going on in the state. I know I can't keep up, and I tend to keep up with things, but thank you so much for all your hard work. And at this time, before we go into member comments, any public comment on this item?
No, not seeing any request to comment from the public at this time.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments from the dais? I see Vice Chair Ramirez.
I had a question for Sequoia in terms of applications for the EAC. How many seats are we trying to fill? And can we get, I don't know, like a report or a visual of what's the geographies that are currently represented in the EAC?
Yeah, I'm going to take that, Vice Chair. So we have 12 open seats currently, and yes, many of the seats. And yes, we can take a look at creating a map for the geographies for you. Geography is one of the many considerations that we prioritize when we are looking at membership. So we will provide that data for you.
All right, Member Wong.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say.
Oh, sorry.
We
Go
hope
ahead.
that many members also still reapply. We would love to see some continuity as well.
Yes, thank you for that. Member Wong?
Yes, I just want to uh, emphasize how important anti-displacement policies are incorporated into work plans and legislation and policies. Um, we all are very concerned about displacement, and there's nothing better than having formal language. So thank you for all who have achieved that. Also, regarding transit and intercity rail capital program, TIRSA, I know there's a it's a political realm, but there are potential cuts to TIRSA funding in the future. The California Air Resources Board has decreased the TIRSA funding from the Greenhouse Gas Emission Fund. So in coming years, there may be a reduction in available infrastructure funds to transit agencies. So throughout the state, transit advocates and transit agencies and their elected officials are lobbying the governor and the legislature to restore that funding. The politics of the cut is complex. There are needs that some in the government feel there's a need to subsidize fossil fuel companies more so that we can reduce fuel prices at the pump and taxpayers versus funding transit infrastructure projects. So I don't know if I know staff probably can't weigh in on that. It's a political decision, but I think all of us as members, we probably should be aware of what's happening in our jurisdictions. And I and others are supporting the restoration of those TIRSA funding. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Member Wong. I do actually have an update on that point. I know I was at the CARB meeting when we were advocating for GGRFs, and they're after their decision to cut some of those funds, especially for transit, I know that there were a lot of local DOTs, and I know LA Metro was there and some others advocating to continue the funding. So I guess for staff, really quick, do we have any staff members like at CalSTA, Caltrans, CTC that can, or is this part of like a CARB conversation? I know we have joint meetings sometimes with CTC and CARB and HCD. So I wonder if this conversation is happening. But I do know that there's been a lawsuit filed by one of the environmental justice groups, and there's negotiations happening. So hopefully we can save and protect those funds. But I almost wonder if there's staff assigned to advocate for these types of funds when these things happen at CARB.
So I don't know that I can say that there's staff assigned to advocate for these things, but we're well aware of what's going on. We're tracking it very closely. In terms of the degree to which it will be reported out on or discussed, we can take that back and better understand probably from our legislation team where we're at on that. I think when it's a regulatory process, the way that CARB is going through, very specific process that's followed, but we definitely hear the concern about its impacts to transportation funding. So we will get back to you on that.
Appreciate it.
And I would piggyback on what Laura has said. We have, even if we had an going business as usual, we wouldn't have enough money for the transit facilities and capital needs that we have, we desperately need. So what we're trying to do is do the best with what we can, especially since we're in the middle of a funding round, and try to make the best decisions. And then in terms of just how we support the program, we make sure we get the best programs and the greatest needs out there. So really appreciate that. And we are always thinking about what happens next. And that is appreciate those who are also on the other side doing good work.
Thank you. All right, I'm gonna go to Member Rousey.
Yeah, hi. I'm happy to hear that, we have an ongoing communication about the master plan on aging, and that ongoing work that I believe that we all should be involved in, because it affects every Californian and everybody. As we age, we all age into disability, and our needs around transportation need to be followed from comprehensive from birth to death. And in doing that, we need to have that conversation and continue that conversation with our officials and our aging population. And I just encourage members to get involved with either the DACLAC or other state programs. They're not only doing transportation, but they're also doing the MPA, which is the Master Plan on Aging. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Member Rousey. I know I got an opportunity to attend the last DACLAC that you guys had, and I just want to say I'm learning so much. And I actually had to take a step back and acknowledge my own privilege as someone that doesn't face any physical disabilities or anything like that. And just hearing and learning from folks that, have access and adaptability, barriers. I think it's so important to uplift this group and encourage our EAC members to also support and attend these meetings in the future. Thank you, Member Rousey, for bringing that up. All right. Seeing no one else, I think we can move to tab 11. All right. Tab 11, Draft California Transportation Plan Presentation and Discussion. Tab 11 features the Draft California Transportation Plan Presentation and Discussion. I will pass it on to Tatsuko to introduce this item. Take it away.
Thank you, Chair. We are excited to bring you the Draft California Transportation Plan for your input today. The draft plan called 2050 Pathways is currently open for public comment until Thursday, September 17th. I'm sure Ben will repeat that. Some of you heard that last night at the Community Advisory Board meeting, but we do want to make sure members are aware of this opportunity. We did send the information to members on August 6th. If you would like it to be resent, please do reach out to us so we can be sure to get that to you. We did also want to share a related opportunity for engagement because the California Transportation Plan is currently being updated. The Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan will also need to be updated to remain in alignment with the California Transportation Plan. The Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan provides direction to programs, districts, and partner agencies on the policies and strategies that should be considered when assessing the interregional transportation system and identifying improvements. The plan also provides policy direction for development of the Interregional Transportation Improvement Plan, or ITIP, and establishes criteria for prioritizing transportation investments that support statewide policy goals while safely and efficiently moving people and goods. So an important strategic plan, and we wanted to make sure you all were aware that there will be multiple public engagement opportunities to support the plan's update, including a workshop on August 31st and public comment period this fall. We will be sending that information to committee members following this meeting. Look out for it, please, in the meeting recap that we send out. So bringing it back to the California Transportation Plan, I would like to now hand it over to Ben DeAlba, Chief of Caltrans Department of Transportation Planning. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you very much, and very pleased to be here today to talk with you all about the draft California Transportation Plan. Better? There we go. Okay. As was said, my name is Ben DeAlba. I'm the Division Chief of Transportation Planning at Caltrans. And what does that mean? I mean, I work in Sacramento and I work with the 12 districts throughout the state on our planning efforts. And my division is responsible for various modal plans, and one of those plans is the California Transportation Plan. So I have a presentation here for you, and I believe we have time scheduled for some questions and answers. And so I'll be looking forward to the discussion. I'm just going to go over just a high-level overview of what the plan is and where we're at in this phase of its update. Next slide, please. Okay, well, what is the California Transportation Plan? And this one is specifically called the California Transportation Plan 2050 Pathways. It's an update to the previous California Transportation Plan. And the plan is a requirement both in federal and state law. The federal government requires that we have a long-range transportation, 20-year long-range transportation plan. And state law sets the cadence at which we update the plan. And there are also requirements in law that the plan must address related to safety, the environment, and infrastructure, et cetera. We do the plan, so state law requires that we update it every 5 years. And the significance as well with this plan is that because it is a federal requirement, we need to complete the plan and have it adopted in order for us to have our federal state transportation improvement program to be eligible. So that's what we're working towards with this plan as well. And then the plan, of course, is really a high-level vision that sets goals and includes recommendations and strategies for the transportation system in California. Next slide, please. Here's the timeline that we're currently operating on. We're working towards that final approval in November of 2026, later this year. We are currently in the public comment phase. We released the plan earlier in the month, and the comment period will close on September 17th next month. It's a mandated 45-day public comment period. And then we plan to bring, after the public comment period closes, or just before it closes, excuse me, we will go to the California Transportation Commission, actually this Friday, and present this draft plan there as well before the commissioners for their comment as well. Next slide, please. Was there one skipped or maybe one's not in there? Well, I'll go with the goals. These are the 6 goals that are in the draft plan and are essentially out for comment. So if these goals are, because they are included in the plan itself, are open for discussion and comment. The 6 are safety, climate action and environment, accessibility, equity, quality of life and public health, economic prosperity, and infrastructure. I guess the notable significance with these, if you're tracking, is from the previous plan, we've consolidated these down from 8 to 6. Next slide, please. Some key points I want to highlight about the plan. One is the strategies that are included in the plan itself have been modeled to say that they will help us achieve our greenhouse gas and vehicle miles travel reduction goals for the state. That two, that collaboration is key to the implementation of the plan. A lot of those strategies or recommendations that are included within are not solely within Caltransit's purview, so we need partnerships in order to accomplish what's discussed in the plan. Most notably our metropolitan planning organizations and the regional transportation planning agencies as well. Third is new revenue is needed to accomplish a lot of the strategies and recommendations within the plan. The plan itself is has some bounds to it. Whatever we put into the plan has to have some sort of fiscal bound to it. So we can't put things in there that we can't assume that will be paid for. Solutions and a fourth, solutions are rarely one size fits all. And what we mean by this is the strategy and recommendations within are not all of them will be suited for every region within the state. We recognize that there is a divide between urban and rural, and not all of the urban strategies will work for rural, and not all the rural strategies will work for the urban. So the plan recognizes the diversity of the state. And then, of course, lastly, the interregional system is vital for our emergency response and recovery, and we want to emphasize that in the plan. Next slide, please. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, the California Transportation Plan 2050 Pathways is an update to the previous California Transportation Plan 2050. The notable differences between the two plans is that we have updated the data from the previous plan in our modeling runs. We have now a new law, AB 2086 is what I was referring to as sort of the bounds on the and discussion of future transportation revenues. So we have to identify those in the plan. And as I suggested earlier, we've consolidated the goals from their previous plan from 8 to 6, and we've identified new strategies and recommendations in the plan as well. And that concludes my presentation. Oh, there's one more slide. Pardon me. As the plan itself, as I said, is the state has to adopt its long-range, federally required long-range 20-year plan in order for our FSTIP, the Federal State Transportation Improvement Program, to be eligible for federal funds. And so that is why we are working towards the deadline that we're working towards, which is November of this year, because our FSTIP will be submitted to the feds later this year as well. Okay. Thank you very much. There's my contact if you would like to reach out. I also have here with me a handout that will take you to our survey. We have a survey, and the plan itself is on our Caltrans engagement portal, and you can submit comments through the engagement portal and take our survey about essentially the transportation system in California, which the survey results will help inform the plan itself as well. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for that presentation, Mr. De Alba. Before we take any comments from the dais, is there any public comment on this item?
No, I don't see any requests in the public to comment.
All right, thank you. Any questions or comments from the dais? Mr. Torres Van Vleck, go for it.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, staff, for the presentation. Would it be possible to share more about the plan? I'd like to know more details about the plan. I mean, I feel like I got like a high level overview, but didn't get too much detail. What's being proposed specifically, and then a couple other more specific questions. That does lead me to wonder like how it's being framed, throughout, publicly, and what the community engagement looks like around the plan. I'm curious how the elements are being shared and what community members are being asked to respond to. In regards to the funding that you can't, that you really can only identify solutions that have funding sources tied to it. Did the state consider like a constrained version and an unconstrained version, similar to the Sandag regional plan? Sandag has an unconstrained plan, which is what they would fund if funding was no limitation. And that kind of builds on a point that Member Wong mentioned earlier about what are our aspirations here, right? What kind of aspirational plan would we like to see? I'm also curious on that note, what does the plan identify goals for mode share? And so those are my questions. Thanks.
Yeah, no, great questions, and appreciate that. And sorry for the brevity and high levelness of the presentation itself. The document is nearly 100 pages, a little bit shorter, but it is full of detail in terms of the strategies or recommendations in there, and I can touch on some of those here. I want to address the connection you're making with the Sandag Regional Transportation Plan. Those the CTP, the California Transportation Plan, does not identify projects specifically. So there's no, that would be the major difference between the regional transportation plans, is those are identifying specific projects for that region. And therefore they have sort of a responsibility and a requirement to be fiscally constrained. This is a high level aspirational vision with goals that, once complete, sort of will set the tone for the rest of the modal plans that the department does and the regional transportation plans as well. So, and that's, and Tatsuko said earlier that we have another plan, the interregional strategic investment plan, that sort of lines up with the CTP, and there are other examples of that as well. The California Freight Mobility Plan, the Active Transportation Plan, et cetera. So this is like, if you think of an umbrella, this is at the top and everything else fits underneath it. So some of the specifics, I can give you a little snapshot of some of, like, say, the equity and the accessibility objectives that are in the plan. So related to equity, we have, expand access to transportation options and reduce household transportation costs and improve transportation related economic, environmental, and public health outcomes. So these are very, while very high level, they kind of need to be, because this sets the direction for the other plans that get into more detail about specific actions to take to implement those. Around accessibility, we say in the plan, increase access to destinations, increase the competitiveness of transit, shared mobility, and active transportation options, and provide integrated and seamless travel out connections, and support compact land use and infill development. And I think it's appropriate to share, quote the secretary and the sentiment of the director, is the plan itself is to articulate that the system, we want a system of options, not necessarily a system of alternatives. And I think this is where the plan is trying to get and guide us towards, is to really create that system where people have choices to use, and it's not, it's economically feasible for folks. And therefore, it also helps us reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and our VMT at the same time.
All right. Any follow-up? You're good? All right. Vice Chair?
Are there any goals and strategies in regards to connectivity amongst the different regions of California?
Yeah, well, that's, I think that really the specifics in the interregional strategic investment plan that were the ITSP, that we're also sort of updating in parallel to this document. That one really gets into the specifics and underlines the importance of interregional travel. This document will say that interregional travel is important, not only for economic development and safety and emergency evacuations, but really the specifics will be in that other document. And that one will define what is an interregional project, and so forth. So, but yeah, good point. Thank you.
All right, Member Martinez, and then we'll go to Member Wong.
Thank you for the presentation. Very interesting. Is this like basically roads only, or are we talking about air travel and other modes of transportation?
This touches all modes within the state, so it includes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell me what it includes.
With, of course, transit, passenger vehicle. It gets a little bit into the UAVs,
which is
the drones, essentially, and the importance of, or the developing technology of drones, the freight mobility sector. So that would include the shipping industry, rail, passenger rail as well. So this is, again, this is like the umbrella document that sets the policy and the objectives for all of the other modal plans that the department does. And
is the statement, the department's statement on and vision on where it would like to go with the transportation sector. And I can't leave out active transportation. That is in there.
Yeah, that's
I would be
good.
remiss if I didn't say that, yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I mean, that's just hugely fascinating. Now, can you repeat that statement? Hold on a minute. I've got it right here. To system of options, not system of alternatives.
Yeah,
Can you
well said.
I just verbatim, don't you know? Can you just give us, I would just be interested in what the director, can you elaborate at all?
Sure. I think when suggests that it's a system of alternatives, that would imply that it's centric to one mode and there's alternatives to that one mode. But when you talk about it from the context of a system of options, then it's when you leave your house, you have options to move around the state and within your community or within the region. And I think that's really embodies the sentiment of the plan and trying to establish these other modes that are out there to be more viable options for the traveling public and for the goods movement sector to some extent.
Okay, thank you. And my final question is, who expressed that idea for this plan?
That was shared with us, our planning team, by our leadership. And so I really took that to heart, and I think it does, we wanted to express that as best as we could in the plan.
And that's Caltrans leadership that said that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Member Wong and then Member Rousey.
I wanted to second the comment about transit mode share as a overarching goal of the plan. I don't think there's any better measurement of success of how we spend money than having more customers. So more riders, more transit mode share means that the money was well spent. Over the last decades, California has actually had a decrease in transit mode share. In other words, we're getting less customers for every $1 billion we spend, which is a very bad model for any type of venture. So I think there should be some overarching goals, like let's aim for, I think California as a whole probably has less than 5% transit mode share. The cities may have 20% or 25%. But the state, in some areas of the state, we have virtually very, very low numbers. The second thing I wanted to second was the point about connectivity. And I think connectivity also means regional integration of transit agencies and transit modes. So as long as we have, in the Bay Area, we have 27 transit agencies, although the Metropolitan Transportation Commission has been attempting to better coordinate the agencies. There's been great resistance to much more formal, coordination and governance of these agencies, which is not the case in many transit agencies around the world. New York City, Paris, London, all have regional systems, not 20 or 30 systems. That also means better use of money, more efficient investments, and lower costs overall. So that's important, the regional coordination and integration of systems. The state of Illinois recently passed a measure that provided additional funding to its transit agencies, like the one in Chicago. But they also created a caveat that these agencies start formally combining, integrating in order to get that funding. So I think those are the types of things that should be discussed. It's very political, I know, but it needs to be part of the California Transportation Plan, regional integration of transit. And I think third, we need to, in our plan, adhere to Governor Newsom's executive order to accelerate transit and transportation technology. I think as we see advances in how AI and digital management and infrastructure and the hardware of transit is being implemented daily in other cities and other countries, that California as a leader in technology should certainly start discussing how we can utilize technology in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Wong. Member Rousey?
Yeah, thank you, Member Wong. I think a lot of what I wanted to say what he said, but I also want to remind a lot of our members, a lot of our transit agencies are in their silos. They don't talk to each other a whole lot. They don't work together, and we need our agencies to not only start talking to each other, but to start coordinating and working together in a way that makes our transit system here what everybody else wants. We have the ability to change things for the better, and we need to do so. And I have a question for some of our members. How many of you can just get up and go wherever you want to go same day? Within an hour from now, can you go to the other side of the city or other way by some sort of transit easily? Our people with disabilities and our seniors, if they use the paratransit system, they can't do that a lot of times. There are very few options for same-day travel within that system. They have to call a day or more in advance to set up their rides. Just remembering that we need to continue this conversation and make sure that our agencies understand the needs of everybody. And if that's going to be modal and the systems you're talking about, then we need to make sure that we work together to make those changes happen, and we fund those options. We make sure that at every level that those options are available to everybody to work on. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Rousey. I see Member Alvarado.
Thank you, Chair. Really quickly on Michelle, on Member Rousey's notes, the short-term range transit plan that I attended to had a conversation about our disability justice approach to ridership. And like she shared, there's only one option that you're required to call a day in advance. And I brought up the conversation of choice ridership, of what if she wanted, or, this particular hypothetical, what if this person wanted to go to the store on the fixed route system? And they're like, absolutely not. Everybody who is disabled must use the disability route, specifically because of the training. And I had shared back about, as a choice rider, when we're talking about liberty, everybody should be using every route. And if it's a preferential because of training, like, can we expand disability justice training within the transit system? And that seemed to be a tough suggestion because it was related to capital. So I really like where Member Wong is going with the Vision Zero, and maybe this is something for the planning committee because this is all baked into that, but just wanted to put it into this mix of things that are important to me too.
Yes, thank you, Member Alvarado. The staff want to take the answer to those comments? We're good?
No, I just appreciate the comments, and of course, whatever we hear today from you all members, that we'll take those back and include them in our comments during the public comment period.
And Member Martinez.
One last thing. The interconnectivity, in very rural areas is crucial. I know you guys know that, but I do want to say that on the north end of the state in Humboldt, Del Norte, Shasta, Trinity, Mendocino counties, we have a really good, it's not great, I mean, because there are huge, vast expanses of land to cover, but we do have connectivity. So I am thrilled. Now, with regard to air travel or train or whatever, we don't have that. We have some bus connectivity, but I am really thrilled that the interregional component is a piece of it, and I, for the record, want to contribute. So, yeah, I mean, when we're talking about urban, it's really different from some of the, I mean, California, as we know, is huge. And I know that our group is going to Reading in October, which is great. So any staff that can go, because you guys are going to be here, I mean, I would assume, I'm hoping that you're here for a long time and you're working in this realm for a long time, to go up to the north part of the state and really check out the vast distances there is, I think, can be very illustrative as you consider things. So it's not really a comment, but thank you for listening.
Yes. Thank you, Member Martinez. Seeing no one else, I just wanted to end by saying that, first of all, thank you for the presentation. I think I agree with Member Torres Van Vleck. I would have wished to see a little bit more detail on the draft. And I understand we can always go to the website and look at it. One of the things I wanted to emphasize as part of my comments is the circulation elements at the local level. There's a lot of highways and corridors that are under the jurisdiction of Caltrans, but they happen to be in the inner city residential areas. And when we talk about AB 98 and freight and, the big rigs going through these areas, the cities and counties and Caltrans are always pointing fingers at each other. And they're like, well, Caltrans needs to fix that, or no, the city has to do this. And one of the things that we have seen recently in our region, and I know Member Alvarado has brought this up several times, is the safety of our pedestrians and bikers. And right now with school getting back in session, one of the things that I was witnessing is more and more kids are riding the e-bikes and they're riding their scooters. And we literally have big rigs driving through the bike lanes, and parents are freaking out. And so they prefer to, literally, if they live 2 blocks away from the school, they prefer to just drive their kids to school because they're so scared to let them ride their bikes. And it's creating chaos in the families because I do a lot of family engagement work also, so I speak of experience. A lot of the kids are fighting with their parents because they really want to, ride their bikes and ride their scooters to school, but the parents are out of caution. They just won't let them. And so anyway, so they start their school day on a bad note because, parents didn't allow them to. and, very simple things like that, and just creating and taking safety into consideration. I really do think there has to be more collaboration with our local transportation agencies in these conversations, and I hope that some language is adopted in this transportation plan in regards to big rigs not being able to drive in bike lanes or high traffic pedestrian roads, so just for the safety. And there's a lot of collaboration that needs to happen, but there's just a lot of not communication happening in those jurisdictions. And to Member Martinez's point, there's rural areas, there's other places that, are still lacking the sidewalks, even a stop sign for people to know that there's a bus route, right? So many other things. I know in our December meeting, we had a presentation from a local group that literally gave us pictures and videos of how some folks on wheelchairs have to go through dirt roads to get to their bus stop because there's no proper infrastructure. So anyway, all to say is that I wish to see in this draft a little bit more conversation about safety and freight and how some roads shouldn't be combined with allowing all of these means of transportation in one street. So that's it for my comments. Is there anyone else before we adjourn? All right. Well, I want to thank the staff, want to thank the members for traveling all the way to San Diego. Thank you, Member Torres Van Vleck, for welcoming us to your community. I learned so much. Thank you so much to the CAB team at Caltrans District 11. I do know that one of the members, I believe her name was Jillian, she was really interested about the anti-displacement policy. She didn't know that there was an anti-displacement policy. So when I brought it up, she got really excited. So I hope that the word gets out that we're going to be talking about that in our future meetings. So she's a part of that conversation. And with that, thank you to the CTC. I know we met with Chair yesterday during dinner, and we had a great conversation. So thank you all for your hard work, and we look forward to the future meetings and future conversations, and hope we really do change the world with these members. So thank you all for a wonderful time, and we are adjourned at 4:30.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yes. It's like-